Our story begins in a training gym with two people sparring on the court. During a fierce exchange of blows, two fists clash with intense force. The protagonist Su-hong puts pressure on his sparring partner, delivering a rapid sequence of attacks against his guard. The other boy, stepping back in pain, complains that the final strike was extremely painful. Amazed, he notices his friend's improvement and asks about the level of his technique, but Su-hong informs him that he achieved subtle mastery 2 days ago. Subtle mastery represents the third of 5 power levels that exist in the martial arts of this universe. The friend, excited, gives a thumbs up and assures him that in this particular technique, no one in the class can match the protagonist. Without delay, the boy gets back into a fighting stance, asking if the break is over so they can continue the match. His friend runs off to the locker room, calling him obsessed and saying he is going home to eat. On the way, the young man says goodbye to Professor Lee, who advises him to dress properly before leaving. The instructor then turns to Su-hong to discuss his enrollment in the martial division. He asks why the 30,000 yuan fee hasn't been paid yet, since the deadline is next Monday. The boy tries to ask for an extension of a few days, but the professor expresses regret for his family's financial situation and emphasizes that the rules are unbreakable. A heavy silence settles in the room after this flat refusal. The challenging reality of the boy's situation becomes clear, with the two of them isolated in the center of the huge court. Alone again, the young man throws punches in the air out of frustration, constantly thinking about the 30,000 yuan he needs to get urgently. He remembers the moment he lost his parents at the age of 3 in a disaster involving wild beasts. From that moment on, he was taken in by his aunt and uncle, who invested everything in his training when they discovered his innate talent for fighting. After all, in this era plagued by fearsome monsters, martial arts practitioners are the highest paid professionals in the world. Although he trains with the goal of providing a better life for them, the young man carries an immense burden, feeling that he is only making things harder for his family. Later, night falls over the modest housing complex where the boy lives. As he approaches the door of his home, he hears his uncle suggest delaying the rent payment so they can prioritize paying for their nephew's enrollment. The man places so much trust in Su-hong's potential that he refuses to become an obstacle to the boy's bright future. His aunt even suggests stopping the purchase of her own medication to save money, but her husband rejects the idea and promises to get an extra job to cover the expense. Outside, listening silently to all this sacrifice, the protagonist's heart fills with anguish. He then slaps his own face to shake off the gloom and compose his expression before entering the living room. Appearing normal, he greets his family, and his aunt immediately shows concern about his exhaustion from training so late. They insist that the young man go rest in his room, treating him with affection to ensure he has energy for the next day. The night deepens as the pale moonlight silently illuminates his bedroom window. Lying in bed, unable to sleep, he comes to the conclusion that his aunt and uncle have already tried hard enough and that he will solve the money issue himself. Thinking about a way to get tens of thousands of coins in a short period, Su-hong understands that there is only one viable solution. The next morning, daylight reflects off the grand facade of a building in the heart of the city. That place is the Underground Fighting Club, where an announcer hypes the crowd for a wild, no-rules challenge where only victory guarantees you stay in the game. In the center of the ring, the hostess introduces the main attraction of the moment, a dominant fighter in the arena known as the Minotaur. Wearing a red mask with horns, the protagonist focuses on the 60,000 reward destined for whoever gets 4 consecutive wins. In the stands, the audience completely underestimates the masked rookie, assuming he is heading for his own downfall by accepting such an absurd challenge. The organizer approaches the boy and instructs him to hype up the crowd, which leaves him completely unsure of what to do. Annoyed by his lack of experience, she explains that he needs to provoke and say ridiculous things to attract the attention of the bettors. Understanding the instruction, he puffs out his chest and shouts that he is unbeatable against any opponent below the official martial artist level. The provocation has an instant effect, making the spectators furious and eager to see the rookie get severely punished in the ring. Satisfied with the uproar, the presenter finally announces the start of the match, while the entire gym clamors for the hero's defeat. Keeping his composure, the boy evaluates the intense atmosphere of the room and trusts that his special technique will secure the school tuition money. Immediately, a burly man lunges at Su-hong, promising to teach the arrogant rookie a lesson. With a cold analysis of the charge, the protagonist identifies instability in his opponent's base and deduces that he will be an easy target. The opponent tries to deliver a powerful punch, insulting the boy for seeming distracted in the middle of a high-stakes fight. With extreme ease, Su-hong dodges the enemy attack at the last second, with a movement of remarkable fluidity. Taking advantage of the completely open guard, he counterattacks with a precise strike right to the large man's chin. Due to the overwhelming impact, the opponent is thrown backward through the air like a puppet. The giant falls knocked out on the arena floor, and the presenter promptly announces the masked fighter's first victory. The crowd goes into a state of absolute shock at the simplicity of the knockout, and the tone of contempt turns into pure amazement. A new opponent with his body covered in battle marks steps into the ring, declaring that the rookie's luck runs out with him. Confident, the protagonist invites the man to fight, planning to use that robust opponent to test the destructive limit of his special punch. At that moment, the muscular blonde charges forward, launching an intense attack straight at the boy. Both of their fists clash with extraordinary force, generating a shockwave that spreads across the court. Despite feeling the remarkable pressure of the strike, the opponent believes his own physical strength is still vastly superior to the rookie's. However, taking the impact with ease, the boy is already executing a quick response directly at the burly man's face. He notices that the opponent's exaggerated stance left his waist area completely exposed for a finishing blow. Immediately, the hero drives his fist into the enemy's stomach with incredible and well-focused force. The punch is so powerful that it launches the blonde to the opposite side of the arena, leaving everyone speechless at the massive strength of the attack. Another opponent falls to the floor, and the organizer enthusiastically announces the hero's second victory in a row. The glowing sign outside the club continues to draw attention from the street to the spectacular showdown taking place inside. In a reserved section, wealthy men observe the scene and comment that the boy is incredibly strong for someone without an official level. The announcer then declares the third consecutive victory, which leads the men in suits to plan on using the boy to rig future matches. The leader of the group orders his subordinate to recruit the young man in the ring, but instructs him to hide his true advanced strength during the fight. Meanwhile, in the center of the arena, the hero, breathing heavily, concludes that his refined technique is far too superior for the average fighters in that division. Facing the final stretch, he feels motivated by the certainty that he only needs one more knockout to get the 60,000 grand prize. Unexpectedly, a fighter in a suit wearing a white fox mask appears, surprising everyone with his interruption. The audience quickly identifies that the man in the suit is close to the master level, which makes this fight completely unfair to the boy. Realizing that the challenge is now much riskier, the protagonist grits his teeth and promises himself that he cannot be defeated under any circumstances. On the other side, the opponent in the suit displays a confident posture, convinced of his immense advantage. Showing complete calm, the bad guy adjusts his clothing, proving he has total control of his superior abilities. The two adversaries take their positions facing each other, signaling the start of the final round for the big cash prize. As soon as the signal is given, they charge at each other in a swift dash through the middle of the gym. Aware of his major-level disadvantage, the young man chooses to focus all his energy on the first strike, hoping to catch him off guard. The two fists finally meet in a massive blast, making the entire arena shake with the overwhelming impact of that decisive clash. Upon feeling the absurd force of the blow, Su-hong immediately realizes that the enemy's power does not belong to an ordinary fighter. He instantly understands that the man in the suit is a true martial artist and is deliberately holding back his own power. On the other side, the rival with the fox mask takes a deep breath and prepares for his ultimate technique. Without hesitation, the bad guy advances with full force and delivers an overwhelming sequence of punches that hits the protagonist squarely. The impact is so intense that the boy coughs from the exertion, shocked by the sheer force of that level. In the stands, the crowd immediately recognizes the advanced technique and already considers the rookie defeated. Pressing continuously, the man in the suit mocks the situation and demands that the boy stop just defending and actually fight. The hero focuses completely on blocking the heavy blows, aware that if he continues like this, he will suffer a crushing defeat. Taking advantage of the bad guy's recklessness, he waits patiently for the ideal moment to execute a counterattack. At that moment, the opponent throws another powerful punch, which is stopped by the protagonist's firm guard. With the opening created by the proximity, Su-hong launches his own fist at maximum speed. The precise strike hits the man in the suit dead-on, throwing his body to the other side of the ring. Despite landing the blow, the boy feels extremely exhausted and notices his consciousness slipping away. However, the bad guy lands on his feet with ease and sarcastically informs him that the fight's prize will be voided. He suggests the rookie agree to throw matches for his boss in exchange for the money, but Su-hong rejects the dishonest proposal on the spot. The masked man advises him to reconsider, assuring him that refusing the deal will bring serious consequences. Intimidated, the protagonist criticizes the enemy's cowardly attitude and asks them if they really consider themselves martial artists. The man in the suit's expression fills with annoyance as he understands the boy's definitive refusal. At that moment, the bad guy charges with absolute fury, promising to finish the rookie off once and for all. With eyes shining with determination, Su-hong focuses on his grand purpose of reaching the martial apex. The man in the suit delivers a fierce flying kick, but the hero slides quickly across the floor to dodge. Suddenly, enigmatic energy surrounds the boy, and a voice asks if he will bear the cost, to which he agrees to give himself completely. In an instant, the entire scenery fades away, and the protagonist finds himself floating in a dark space. Completely perplexed by the sudden change, he looks around, trying to figure out what this strange place is. Right in front of him, a giant luminous entity suddenly materializes, lighting up all the darkness. The imposing figure stares at the boy and declares that it will grant him the opportunity he so desires. With that promise, an intense light pierces the room, converting the dark space into a golden hall. Then a massive holographic screen floats and positions itself directly in front of the amazed hero. Looking closely, he notices that the panel displays all his physical attributes, as well as the techniques he has mastered. Curious about the technology, he tries to interact with the glowing interface to understand how that peculiar system works. The boy then chooses the first available mission on the luminous panel to test out the new feature. The screen informs him that time in the real world is frozen while he trains in that place to master his techniques perfectly. He is intrigued by the mentioned reward, just as an identical clone made of light begins to form beside him. Without giving him time to think, the perfect replica already takes a fighting stance with great agility. The clone throws a powerful punch that cuts through the air, displaying an impressive mastery of the technique. Analyzing the movement, the boy notes that the copy executes his special punch in an absolutely flawless manner. Extremely excited by the demonstration, he sees a unique chance to improve his own style right there. Without hesitation, the hero clenches his fist and launches the same attack, seeking to imitate the clone's precision. The two begin to train together, with the boy replicating every detail of the glowing copy's posture. However, amidst a fast sequence, the protagonist makes a mistake in his guard and ends up at a disadvantage in the training. Even after the mistake, the luminous copy returns to its starting position, waiting for the young man's next attempt. Looking at the panel, he is surprised to see that his proficiency in the technique quickly rose to 10%. At that moment, he realizes that the virtual space is the ideal way to instantly evolve his skills. Determined to make the most of the system, the boy advances on the clone in a frantic exchange of blows. The rigorous training continues, with the hero endlessly repeating the attacks while the values on the screen keep increasing. Protagonist's stubborn dedication brings the mastery of his techniques closer and closer to the maximum level. With that, he executes a flawless palm attack, reaching complete mastery of the movement in a burst of energy. Shortly after, the boy speeds up his footsteps through the golden hall and achieves total mastery of the movement technique. To finish with mastery, he hits the clone with a definitive punch, reaching the maximum level of his main technique. With all his skills at their peak, he stands panting in the center of the hall, feeling the effort of the exhausting training. Happy with the progress, the boy thanks the copy, and the panel asks him if he wants to return to the real world. In the blink of an eye, time flows again in the arena, and the hero reappears in front of the bad guy in the suit. Suspecting nothing, the enemy criticizes the boy's silence and throws another quick punch toward his face. Taking advantage of the movement, the man in the suit unleashes a brutal sequence of electric attacks to destroy his opponent's defense. However, the protagonist dodges the strikes with impressive ease, considering the enemy's speed to be insignificant. The bad guy with the fox mask begins to sweat nervously, completely stunned that he is only hitting empty air. Using his new mastery, the hero delivers a devastating punch directly to the opponent's face, shattering his mask into pieces. The force of the impact is so overwhelming that the young fighter's true, imposing presence dominates the entire court. The intensity of the counterattack leaves the entire grandstand in absolute silence and total disbelief. With the man in the suit unconscious on the floor, the masked rookie remains standing, proclaiming his undeniable victory in the arena. Breaking the tense atmosphere, the champion faces the presenter and claims the prize money he just won. In the VIP area, the wealthy boss holds a glass of wine, amazed by the advanced technical mastery of a simple apprentice. Extremely interested in the young man's talent, the man in the suit orders his security guards to follow the fighter to discover his identity. Meanwhile, the hero calmly walks through the dark alleys of the city on his way home. With heightened senses, he easily notices the presence of unknown individuals following him down the deserted street. The henchmen stealthily arrive at the dark corner, only to notice that their target has suddenly disappeared. The men look nervously in all directions, aware that they must fulfill their boss's order at any cost. Right above them, the protagonist balances on the alley walls and mocks their ridiculous attempt to track him. After getting rid of the pursuers, the knight remains silent over the modest apartment complex. An hour later, the lights of the family's small home turn on down the street, confirming that the young fighter has arrived safely. In the living room, his uncle's eyes widen at the sight of the huge pile of money on the table and asks his nephew if he robbed a bank. To reassure his family, the boy makes up a story that the dojo master, impressed with his talent, decided to fund the amount. The next day, the school routine returns, with the gym full of students for another morning of activities. Amidst the crowd, classmates whisper curiously, trying to figure out why one of the students showed up completely battered. A student spreads a rumor that the boy damaged some equipment and took the blame, while the principal demands silence in the room. On the gym stage, the principal introduces level 3 martial artist Chen Tian, who is invited to demonstrate the rank C technique known as the Thunder Fist. The students are thrilled to see a master of that caliber, commenting that dojos charge a fortune for that teaching outside of school. Observing the scene, Su-hong remembers that the masked bad guy used that exact same skill and recognizes the absurd power of that impact. Knowing the extremely high fees charged out there, the protagonist decides he absolutely cannot let this great chance slip away. The master cuts the class's chatter short, warning that he will demonstrate the move 10 times and the rest depends entirely on their effort. With that, the instructor steps forward, assuming a flawless combat stance. He unleashes a fierce punch, explaining that the technique is intense and at the basic level emits a loud thunderclap. Continuing the explanation, he details that the proficient level generates 3 sounds and the subtle level reaches 5 consecutive sonic impacts. Releasing an impressive energy through the gym, Chen Tian reveals that his current mastery is that of a master, producing 7 sounds with each strike. He mentions that the perfect realm reaches 9 sounds, but warns the students not to dream too high, as the basic level is already more than enough. Starting the second demonstration, the master tells the class to follow the movements, creating a chaos of students trying to copy the stances. Several hours later, the crowd collapses on the floor out of sheer exhaustion, complaining that it is totally impossible to get the hang of the technique. One of the boys sits panting on the court and concludes, discouraged, that rank C skills are just too hard to learn. Looking for his friend, he notices that Su Hong has suddenly disappeared, right as a massive noise echoes through the entire building. Excited, the student Chen Chan celebrates having reached the basic level, making his classmates praise his extraordinary intelligence. The principal praises the boy as the school's genius, but the master scoffs, considering that result only acceptable by his standards. The conversation continues outside the main school facilities. Chen Tian laments that the class is very weak, and that he wasted his time there, since mastering the basics doesn't make anyone a true prodigy. Walking through the courtyard, he reinforces that martial cultivation is harsh and that effort alone never overcomes a lack of natural talent. Suddenly, a rapid sequence of intense thunders interrupts the teacher's walk halfway through. Nearby, Su Hong trains alone and catches the attention of someone shocked to see a mere student reaching 7 sounds in the technique. Throwing punches non-stop, the protagonist reaches 9 sounds, leaving the master amazed by such mastery in so little practice time. The teachers stand paralyzed listening to the pops on the court, while the principal asks if he heard those 9 absurd impacts correctly. Confident with the discovery, the master claims he finally understood the secret that was missing in his own training. He clenches his fist, concentrating sparks of pure, destructive energy in his hands. Without a second thought, he executes the technique with renewed vigor and surprising intensity. Very excited about reaching 8 sounds, he thanks the student's inspiration for making him break his limit after being stuck at the same level for so long. Ignoring any conversation, Chen Tian runs frantically across the courtyard to discover the identity of the mysterious prodigy. However, upon arriving at the empty training court, they are confused as they look for the person responsible for that extraordinary feat. Far away from there, the boy is already running through the streets exhausted, feeling the immense weight on his body from cultivating such an advanced technique. Checking the notifications on his system, the hero notes that he maxed out the technique and concludes he needs friendly sparring to get martial points. Following his plan for rapid evolution, he arrives at the imposing entrance of the Furious Thunder Dojo in the center of the city. Inside, the atmosphere is pure chaos with students exchanging aggressive and loud blows using training spears and staffs. A classmate approaches asking the reason for the surprise visit, and the young man answers calmly that he just came to practice a bit. At that, an arrogant fighter with purple hair kicks a student's chest, throwing the poor guy forcefully against the wooden floor. The aggressor mocks the defeated ones, telling them to stop blaming the master's classes and finally accept that they are too weak to learn how to fight. Su Hong asks what is going on in the room, and the classmate explains that the new instructor is strong, but teaches unwillingly and totally despises the poorer students. He also warns with fear that this guy's disciple, named Li Yan, is extremely dangerous and ruthless in matches. Noticing the side conversation, the purple-haired fighter provokes the hero, doubting he has enough level to handle a real challenge. Without any warning, the troublemaker lunges forward, firing a quick punch straight toward the newcomer's face. The protagonist blocks the attack with the greatest of ease and politely asks the rival to end the commotion right there. Annoyed by the firm defense, Li Yan tells him to let go of his fist and calls him out for a one-on-one duel in the arena, a challenge the boy accepts on the spot. In this moment of tension, the arrogant master enters the hall demanding absolute silence because his class is about to start. Following his superior's order, the disciple slowly backs away, warning the rookie that he was very lucky to escape a beating this time. Facing the arrogant attitude of the two instructors, the hero is quite bothered by the excessive arrogance dominating the dojo's environment. The cocky master announces in a tone of superiority that today is the last day for the spear technique, and that he will do the demonstration only once. With an incredibly fluid and precise spin, he executes the movement, cutting through the air in front of all the highly attentive students. Perfectly copying the demonstrated stance, Su Hong tests the weapon and immediately reaches the proficient level of the technique through the system. The tip of the boy's spear destroys the sturdy training target with a clean, fast, and absolutely devastating impact. Shocked by the absurd evolution of a mere martial arts rookie, Li Yan goes on the attack, swinging his own spear with anger. The two weapons collide roughly in the air, generating intense sparks of energy in the middle of the crowded training hall. Receiving the new points on the glowing panel, the hero celebrates, confirming that friendly matches yield exactly the reward he so desperately needs. Completely outmatched in the exchange, the rival falls to his knees on the floor, muttering that it is impossible for someone to master the strike that fast. Despair takes over the fighter as he thinks that all his years of hard, sweaty training were good for absolutely nothing. Completely losing his mind, he abandons the broken spear and charges with bare fists, trying to hit the protagonist any way he can. The boy prepares a precise punch in the fight once and for all, but the instructor yells out in desperation, ordering the combat to stop immediately. The master rushes to the center of the court, interrupting the ugly brawl between the two students before the worst could happen. Without a drop of pity, the older man lands a resounding slap on his disciple's face, giving him a severe scolding for not knowing how to accept his own defeat. The aggressive young man turns his face, feeling the strong sting of the blow and the crushing weight of public humiliation in front of everyone. Analyzing the spear stuck in the wooden floor, the professor admits impressed that the rookie learned everything just by watching the demonstration a single time. Quickly changing his attitude, the master apologizes for the confusion and says that getting beaten by a true genius will do wonders for the apprentice's character. The protagonist breaks into a cold sweat, realizing the clear fakeness and how quickly the teacher changes his mind just out of convenience. Walking back home through the deserted streets at night, he feels his body quite heavy, but admits that all of today's effort was worth it. Looking at the new rewards floating in the system, the young man is fully satisfied to have learned 2 new techniques at once. The next day in front of the school, he concludes that he urgently needs to get an alloy metal weapon to match the rich kid's advantage in the practical exam. Simulating the firm grip of a spear in his empty hands, he decides he will invest in that kind of equipment focused on piercing for the test. However, upon checking his bank account on his cell phone, he realizes the money barely covers his aunt's expensive medicine, making the purchase of the desired weapon impossible. Standing in front of a random store, the boy racks his brain trying to find an urgent new source of income to fund his training. He then reads a poster in the window recruiting brave martial artists to hunt beasts in the surrounding areas in exchange for large and generous rewards. Interested in the big payout offered, he seriously considers risking his own safety by facing terrifying monsters outside the city walls. The late afternoon arrives peacefully, covering the windows of the family's housing complex with an orange sunset light. In the living room, the aunt argues with her husband for working so hard without rest, but he insists he needs to save everything he can to guarantee their nephew's future. Arriving home right at the time of the discussion, the hero greets his aunt and uncle, easing the tension and ending the loving couple's small argument. He takes the heavy groceries from the woman's hand, demanding she rest on the couch, showing all his respect and unconditional affection for the family. The boy firmly guarantees that he can now support the house on his own, but his uncle pats him on the shoulder, laughing and warning that he can't sit still without helping out. The uncle flashes a smile and gives a thumbs up, ensuring he won't work himself to the bone doing odd jobs. At that, the aunt affectionately adds that they need to save as much as possible for their nephew's promising future. Looking at his cell phone, Su-hong reflects that his family members are used to poverty and will never relax without money in their account. He coldly concludes that he can't pass up this golden opportunity hunting beasts to make some quick, good cash. Knowing the enormous dangers of the wild areas, the boy decides to spend all his accumulated points on vitality to protect himself. With heavy energy flowing through his body, he notices he is just one step away from becoming a real martial artist. 2 full days of heavy training pass, and the protagonist finally reaches the level of perfection in all his techniques. Panting from the continuous effort, he realizes the preparations are finished and it is time to take action. On that same Saturday morning, the boy arrives at the imposing martial artist's base, finding the walk quite tiring. Walking through the place, he comments that he has seen the building on television thousands of times, but this is his first real visit. The environment is completely crowded with huge, armed fighters, people who are normally very rare to bump into around the city. Analyzing the holographic board at the counter, the hero discovers that advanced-level beasts can yield up to 9,000 blue coins. But he finds the reward system rather gross and primitive, since he needs to cut off the monster's ear as proof of the takedown. Waiting in line at the ticket window, the rookie observes a hunter handing a giant, full sack to the attendant for evaluation. Suddenly, an aggressive shout echoes through the crowded lobby, ordering everyone to get out of the way immediately. At that, the protagonist notices a cocky group approaching, and the crowd soon recognizes the presence of young Master Ye. Staring at the rich kid in the suit, he notices a familiar aura, and instantly remembers the guy with the white fox mask from the underground arena. The crowd gossips that this rich guy's uncle got badly beaten days ago, and the boy finds it funny, thinking it was all very well deserved. Not wanting to cause trouble so early, the hero turns around and quietly walks away in the opposite direction. Behind him, the arrogant young man gives a smirk, seeming to suspect something weird in the air. Already in the dangerous wild area, a giant white wolf leaps fiercely, trying to take down the unsuspecting rookie. Maintaining absolute calm, Su-hong slides quickly across the ground, dodging the fatal attack at the last second. He concentrates his energy into his hand, preparing the thunder technique at maximum power to strike back. Taking advantage of the beast's open guard, the boy buries his electric fist straight into the wolf's body with absurd intensity. The impact throws the monster through the air, making it crash hard into a distant tree on the other side of the forest. Observing the fallen beast, the hero realizes that hunting monsters in the real world is much more exciting than he imagined. Trembling with pure adrenaline, the rookie checks his own fists, feeling the power of victory running wild in his veins. Since he took down the monster with a single simple strike, the desire to test his own strength against something more dangerous speaks louder. Right at that time, an intermediate stage black bear emerges huge behind him, roaring loudly. Without losing his confident posture, the protagonist resolves the problem quickly and concludes that beasts of that level are not a threat. Crouched near the bear's furry remains, he removes the monster's ear, celebrating the guaranteed 3,000 in his bag. The system then beeps, warning that the accumulated points are enough for him to finally become an official martial artist. Suddenly, a terrifying and powerful roar echoes through the dense forest, startling the boy. Feeling an incredibly heavy aura spreading, the hero breaks a cold sweat, trying to guess what kind of bizarre monster is nearby. Driven by curiosity, the fighter agilely jumps through the thick branches of the trees, going to check the source of that commotion. Landing silently on top of a high rock, the rookie peeks at the clearing to evaluate the tense situation below. Shock takes over his eyes as he immediately recognizes the absurd creature that is destroying the entire place. A giant black jade python intensely attacks a cornered group of hunters in the middle of the forest. The monstrous snake charges forward, crushing the shield of one of the warriors, who screams in pure desperation. With the colossal force of the strike, the poor guy is thrown like a rock straight against the rocky wall. Realizing the imminent crisis, the purple-haired group leader shouts desperate orders to hold the formation steady. He bravely leaps, delivering a piercing attack with his spear against the hard scales of the wild beast. But the snake reacts faster and whips its thick tail, sweeping the dirt with force. Totally surprised by the absurd speed of the defense, the leader fails to dodge and takes a heavy hit to his body. The impact raises a giant cloud of dust, while the beast continues to crush the terrain without any mercy. The group leader falls badly hurt into the dirt, while the boy watches everything hidden and tense on the rock. Evaluating the difficult situation, the protagonist wipes his face and makes a risky decision to try to intervene in the chaos. He stealthily descends to the pitted ground and borrows the spear from the hands of the completely knocked out hunter. Gripping the weapon with total firmness, the hero steps into the snake's line of sight, drawing the monster's attention. Furious with the bold new prey, the gigantic snake opens its mouth wide and charges straight in to deliver the fatal strike. Using his newly improved agility, Suhong does a quick backflip, dodging the jaws that shatter the ground. Retreating to maximum safety, the boy reflects that he would need an entire team to take down such an advanced beast. However, relying entirely on his maxed-out techniques, he knows he can go head-to-head if he fights with enough intelligence. With his void step at the perfect level, the young man executes an incredible jump, flying right over the snake's charge. From high above, he twists his body in the air and fires the perfectly charged spear technique with strong blue energy. The sharp tip hits the beast's thick scales, creating intense and bright sparks, but without tearing deeply into the skin. Feeling the heavy pressure of the direct hit, the black jade snake lets out a sharp hiss of pure irritation into the air. The giant monster quickly twists its massive body, trying to crush the bold hunter while he is still mid-jump. The boy grips the wooden handle of the weapon with a lot of strength, preparing his next emergency evasive move. He lands perfectly on the safe ground, surrounded by his flawless combat aura, ready for the next exchange of blows. Without giving the monster time to breathe easily, the hero focuses his gaze and calls the beast into aggressive combat once again. He concentrates all his energy into the spear and delivers an intense thrust, generating a destructive aquatic whirlpool. The heavy impact hits dead center, making the giant snake writhe completely in a lot of pain there in the clearing. Desperate from the injury, the snake whips its tail frantically, breaking the rocks while the boy dodges the hits. Sliding across the packed dirt of the field, he concludes that the size difference is too unfair and he needs to tire the beast out first. A giant shadow covers the boy suddenly, and he ducks, scraping his back on the floor to dodge the lethal tail. Fighting a valuable small opening, the protagonist attacks empty-handed and fires the thunder punch straight at the target. Right after the electric impact causes damage, he pulls the weapon back and retreats quickly, gaining a good distance from the enemy. Keeping his cold and calculating strategy, the young man continues the cycle of attacking weak points and disappearing from the beast's sight. While the intense fight rages on in the forest, young Master Yi's group finally arrives at the disaster site. The rich guy in the suit finds it funny to see the hero fighting alone and bets with absolute certainty that he will meet his end right there. But surprise soon hits him hard upon seeing the rookie leaving an advanced stage beast so beaten up like that. Suhong notices the arrival of the arrogant intruders and finds it very suspicious that they found the dangerous monster so quickly. Without the slightest warning, a brute from the enemy group jumps behind the boy's back, wanting to attack following his boss's orders. Realizing the extreme cowardice of that surprise attack from behind, the protagonist's eyes darken, filled with pure fury. Staring down the henchman, Suhong warns that he was only pushed because of the surprise attack and asks if they really think they can defeat him. Wasting no time, the boy fires a devastating electric punch straight into the arrogant opponent's chest. The masked brute feels the terrifying force of the blow crushing his body without being able to defend himself. Taking advantage of the opening, the protagonist sinks another intense attack, launching the enemy through the air. The henchman crashes hard onto the pitted ground right in front of the group of frightened hunters. Observing the technique used, one of the hunters immediately recognizes the punch and confirms that the rookie is the famous Minotaur from the arena. At that, the hero turns his attention to young Master Yi and quickly identifies him as the guy with the white fox mask. Maintaining an arrogant posture, the rich kid comments that the boy was the first person to humiliate him so much in front of so many people. Commanding his henchmen, the bad guy simply points his finger and gives the cold order to eliminate the protagonist. The rookie quickly jumps back, scaling the rocky wall, while the enemies shout to chase him. Already in the middle of the dense woods, the henchmen look for the target and warn each other to be very careful with ambushes in the forest. One of the mercenaries scoffs at the precaution, thinking it is absurd to be afraid of a single guy with so many people on the team. In the blink of an eye, Suhong appears stealthily, cutting through the wind right behind the distracted enemy. The hero's eyes shine with intensity in the dark, revealing the fatal flaw in his opponent's defense. Delivering a brutal electric strike, he crushes the hunter against the ground, kicking up a curtain of dust and destruction. The mercenary's body falls completely knocked out and injured in the middle of the dense vegetation. Annoyed by the quick loss, young Master Yi curses the situation, unable to understand how the boy manages to be so incredibly fast. The henchmen step in front of the boss to protect him, shocked as they recognize the thunder punch at a level of absurd perfection. The rich kid tells everyone to shut up, trembling with nervousness, thinking it is totally impossible for someone to master those techniques to the max. Watching everything from high up on the branch, the hero reflects that he would have crushed them all in direct combat if he wasn't exhausted because of the giant snake. Without the energy to fight the entire team at once, he decides to jump through the trees to hunt the enemies one by one in quick ambushes. Advancing like lightning, the young man hits another mercenary's back with a spear before he can even react. Right after, he directs a powerful kick to the face of another hunter who is right next to him. The hit connects perfectly and throws the brute forcefully backward into the bushes with a destructive electric impact. Continuing the fierce sequence, the boy strikes another opponent who collapses badly hurt onto the dirt. Desperate over the rapid takedowns, the henchmen ask their boss to run away right now, but the bad guy thinks this is a bad joke. Facing the rookie dismantling his team, the man in the suit swears to himself that he needs to put an end to that kid today, whatever the cost. Seeing the furious protagonist approaching, another lackey steps in front wielding his knife to try to delay the fatal attack. However, the boy ignores the pathetic defense and sinks his fist into the ground, creating a huge crater and shattering everything around. Shocked by the destruction, the rich kid wonders how it is possible for the opponent to have gotten so strong in a matter of just a few days. Ignoring the fallen henchman, the protagonist charges straight toward the enemy leader with absurd speed. Cornered and cursing his own luck, the man in the suit gets into a combat stance, knowing he has nowhere left to run. With the spear ready to pierce, Suhong warns that it is finally the rich kid's turn to pay for his actions. Blocking the attack with his bare hands glowing with blue energy, the bad guy tells the boy not to think victory is already guaranteed. At that, the young master fires several sharp bursts of pure energy directly from his fingers to try to push the hero away. With a quick and fluid movement, the rookie spins the shaft of the spear, creating a shield to defend himself from the lethal shots. One of the blasts misses the target and hits a giant tree, splitting the trunk in half with an intense explosion of splinters. Pressuring his opponent, the man in the suit shoots non-stop, destroying the surrounding scenery with destructive blue lights. Dodging with difficulty, the boy admits that the level of that advanced enemy technique must be at least Class B. Far away from there, the survivors of the group watch the commotion, finding the rookie very bizarre and trying to see if their boss has already put an end to him. Emerging from the smoke, the hero advances towards the henchman with a giant sword, while the bad guy runs after him, swearing he will not forgive him. Suddenly, the giant snake wakes up furious right behind the swordsman mercenary, leaving the entire group completely paralyzed with terror. The monster lunges, taking the swordsman out in the blink of an eye, yielding dozens of martial points for the hero through this indirect elimination. Another hunter is taken down in the process with screams, and the protagonist thinks it is great to gain experience so easily using the beast against them. Taking advantage of the absolute chaos generated by the wild monster, the young fighter picks up his pace to disappear into the thick woods once and for all. Leaping away from danger, he concludes that the points accumulated in the recent fights are already enough for him to become an official martial artist. Landing firmly on a thick tree branch, he tells himself that he needs to find a very safe place to focus on his level advancement. Looking at the rocky wall ahead, the fighter finds a dark cave and decides that hole will serve perfectly as a hideout. Wasting no time, the hero dives into the rocky crevice while the giant snake chases him, tearing up the dirt. The wild beast hits its head with brute force against the narrow entrance, breaking the rocks in a heavy explosion of dust. Safe in the deep, dark part of the hideout, the boy breathes a sigh of relief as he sees the monster totally stuck in the tight rocks at the entrance. Furious, the snake opens its sharp fangs wide, forcing its massive body through the hole in a useless attempt to reach its prey. Ignoring the thunderous roars outside, the protagonist opens his glowing interface to begin the system's evolution process. Tapping the virtual panel anxiously, he quickly spends all his points on the vitality attribute, wanting to speed up the gains. With the drastic increase in energy, the hero's body burns in an intense red hue, feeling as if lava is running through his veins. The panel finally hits 100 points of maximum vitality, while the snake watches the bizarre scene blinking from outside. Bathed in an aura of colossal power, the young man celebrates euphorically for having broken the barrier and become a true first-class martial artist. Turning his back to the panel with his fist sparking heavy energy, he faces the beast with an intense look, warning that it is now his turn. Shooting out of the cave like a missile, the hero focuses all his absurd new power directly into his right hand prepared for the attack. The intense punch hits the giant snake's chin dead on, lifting the monster's body with an absurdly devastating impact. The strike is so powerful that it generates an explosion of yellow light, throwing the heavy creature upwards with a desperate roar. Without giving the monster room to breathe, the protagonist advances across the field, invoking his special punch technique charged to the maximum. He takes a gigantic leap, intercepting the snake in mid-air before it can fall and recover from the stun. Releasing a heavy wave of dark and reddish energy, the boy sinks the attack in the beast back with all his destructive will. Despite the clean hit, the extreme effort of the movement makes the hero complain and cough up a bit of exhaustion from the absurd tension in his muscles. Pushing his body to the limit, he grips his own spear with extreme firmness, preparing the final blow to finish the job. The fighter dives from the sky, delivering a crushing slash, throwing the jade snake back to the earth once and for all. The impact generates a gigantic crater, sinking the wild monster into the ground in an explosion of dirt and blue sparks. Falling right after, the young man channels intense electricity through both hands, preparing a thunder technique to crush the wounded prey. The sequence of brutal lightning bolts tears apart the snake's thick scales, which hisses in pure agony, feeling its final moments in the battle. The golden flash lights up the entire stretch of the forest, sweeping away any chance of survival the giant creature might still have had. Standing next to the crushed remains, the winner reflects with satisfaction that he can now go head-to-head with high-level beast without backing down. Sitting comfortably on the defeated beast, he scratches his head trying to remember how he will collect the reward since snakes do not have left ears to cut off. Unable to find a practical solution to take the gross trophy, he simply abandons the carcass right there, deciding to return to the city before nightfall. Walking confidently down the dense tree trail, the protagonist leaves behind a trail of destruction, carrying the weight of his new martial evolution. Staring at the fallen body of the man in the suit on the ground, Su-hong reflects that ending up like that means the guy was still very lucky. He soon begins to search the defeated man's clothes, hoping to find the advanced technique that was used in the fight earlier. The search is successful, and the boy holds a mysterious book called Void-Piercing Finger. The scene shows the silent cave with the gigantic carcass of the defeated snake thrown in the dark water. Outside the hole, the welcoming glow of a campfire illuminates the cold stones. Sitting near the fire, the protagonist notes that he has already memorized the basics of the new skill and will now use the system to master it all quickly. He accesses his virtual space and immediately summons the light copy to start the intense training. The luminous clone takes the correct stance and fires the technique, releasing a very strong blue energy. Following each flawless movement, the boy watches the numbers on the panel rise rapidly, reaching almost 100% mastery. With his eyes shining in pure focus, the hero perfectly understands the flow of power and achieves basic mastery of the strike. Coughing a little from the absurd effort, he feels on his skin the heavy pressure of training a B-level technique and decides to hunt a monster to test it. 3 full days pass in the forest until a giant and terrifying bear roars fiercely, calling for combat. Without hesitation, the young man fires the void-piercing finger, tearing through the wild beast with a destructive blue blast. Attracted by the commotion, a man in a suit approaches, finding it impressive that a kid took down a high-level beast by himself. The woman next to him concludes that the boy has a basic level and accuses him of having looted master use items, demanding an immediate search. The henchmen in suits advance, closing the circle and warning the boy not to resist, otherwise things will get ugly. Realizing the threat, the young man draws his spear with impressive agility in the middle of the smoke. The speed of the movement leaves the mercenaries frightened, with the sharp tip locked right at one of their necks. Maintaining absolute calm, Su-hong reveals he is a student at the city's #1 school and asks if they have the courage to continue with this. The man in the suit breaks a cold sweat, remembering that the principal of that school is super protective of the students and picking a fight with him is always bad business. He understands that if the kid took down all those beasts, he is a dangerous genius and offending someone like that is not worth the risk. Disguising the tension, the leader explains that his nephew was attacked and a secret family technique was stolen. He tries to resolve it diplomatically, offering 10,000 coins in compensation just to be able to search the young man's backpack. Showing he is no fool, the boy raises 3 fingers, demanding 30,000, knowing they can't accuse him without proof of the theft. With no alternative, the men meticulously search his backpack right there on the dirt path. The lackey confirms that he found absolutely nothing, making the boss accept the deal and release the payment of the 30,000 coins. Already walking away from there, the protagonist sighs with relief for having cleaned his tracks in time, so as not to get into a huge problem. While the boss orders the team to keep searching everyone, the boy plans to take a shower and head straight to the Martial Artists Association. Later, he rests in a room at an underground hotel, enjoying a well-deserved moment of peace. Opening the system panel, the hero is shocked to see that he accumulated 534 points after all the hunting in the forest. He calculates that the initial stage costs 100 vitality points and concludes that he will have about 40 points left over before the middle stage. Curious about the other attributes, he decides to hold off on evolving and tests putting the points into spirit and mortal structure. The young man spends dozens of points on the spirit section, but is disappointed when he doesn't feel any change in his own body. However, when focusing on the mortal structure, his strength increases drastically, and he decides to invest heavily in that. The attribute hits 36%, depleting his bar while the system beeps, finalizing the transfer. Satisfied with his strength and structure, he decides to throw the next 200 points into his core vitality. The boy wastes no time and dumps all the rest of what he accumulated straight into the spirit tab, feeling an infinite energy bubbling up. A red explosion dominates the room, making his body double in size with giant, intimidating muscles. Returning to normal size shortly after, he sits panting on the bed, relieved that he didn't get stuck in that bizarre brute form. An hour later, the imposing building of the Martial Artists Association shines under the city's clear sky. Su-hong arrives at the reception desk, informing them that he came to take the test, and the attendant quickly says someone will accompany him. An older man comments that the boy is too young for the first test and warns him about the absurd requirements to pass. Suspicious of the solitary young man, the veteran assumes he is just there to push his luck, since he doesn't have a master accompanying him. Ignoring the gossip, the hero's firm look shows that he is more than prepared for the challenge. Inside the crowded hall, the alarm sounds, signaling that one of the candidates failed upon reaching 992 power. The system approves the student Li Ming with 105 vitality, and the examiner immediately calls him for the physical strength test. The arrogant boy positions himself in front of the giant machine, drawing his fist back with a lot of energy. He buries his fist in the target with immense willpower, creating a loud boom in the room. The digital scoreboard flashes, displaying 1,763 power, guaranteeing immediate approval. The crowd's jaws drop as they praise the young man's absurd strength and exalt Master Jiang Ming's training. Listening to the conversation, the protagonist remembers another aggressive student from the same dojo and wonders how many annoying disciples this master has. The evaluator calls Su-hong to be next, while the rival laughs sarcastically. Li Ming mocks the rookie, finding it pathetic for someone that age to try to take the exam, wanting to compare himself to a genius like him. But the mockery ends quickly when he sees the hero's high score on the machine and thinks the equipment is broken. The staff member announces Su-hong's approval with 123 vitality, making the rich kid furious. Swallowing his frustration, the rival claims that vitality is useless and that combat power is the only thing that really matters. The physical test is about to start, and the boy walks calmly toward the heavy equipment. Calculating his absurd attributes in silence, he deduces that using only 40% of his strength is already more than enough to pass. An employee congratulates the rookie on his success and asks him to accompany him to the second floor to get his prize. Before he can go, another guy in a suit appears in the hallway, announcing that he will personally take care of the boy. A blonde woman full of presence walks down the hallway, being addressed as president by the local staff. She stares intently at the boy and introduces herself as Wu Lingxian, stating that she leads the city's association. The protagonist follows her, completely surprised to see that a level 5 martial artist is so different from what he imagined. Already in the fancy meeting room, the woman bluntly says that the school principal tried to hide the young man's talent with sad stories. Sitting comfortably on the couch, she finds it impossible that weak high school produced such a raw genius without any prior notice. Confused by the special treatment, the young man asks why he was called there, since he only wanted his allowance in the promised technique. The blonde tells him to relax while she takes a drink, guaranteeing that the staff is already handling all the boring paperwork. She stands up with style, stating that she will teach him the technique personally, and asks what he knows about the subject. Thoughtful, the boy says that the school books teach that these skills only serve to absorb the world's energy. The president partially agrees, but generates a flame in her hands, showing that these techniques are much more than simple meditation. Increasing the fire, she explains that the celestial flame strengthens the body and greatly improves the lethality of all his physical attacks. With a rough movement, she projects the heat, firing a massive wave of fire that tears through the air in front of the boy. The hero is stunned as he sits on the couch, since the school never mentioned that the technique was for actual fighting. The woman lists the 7 main elements of energy, pointing out that thunder power is the best of all for causing damage. To finish the lesson, she crosses her legs and notes that no one chooses their technique, as it all depends purely on physical compatibility. The president holds a glowing crystal ball, explaining that it tests compatibility. The brighter the glow, the higher the level, and 80% is already something very high. Handing the unlit object to the boy, she is confident that a genius like him will definitely pass 30%. Holding the crystal ball, the hero thinks it's an exaggeration to reach 80%, since the president herself is a prodigy and stopped at that mark. Suddenly, a blinding red light explodes from the object in his hands. The intense glow takes over the entire room, leaving the woman shocked to see that his fire compatibility hit 100%. She then asks if the boy has any idea what that means, and he denies it. The blonde explains that he can absorb all fire energy without wasting any. Using herself as an example, she mentions that she loses 2/10 of the energy, but that was enough to make her a level 5 martial artist. Staring closely at the young man, the president guarantees that his future will be even greater, amazed that a small town created such a powerhouse. However, Su-hong reflects that fire is cool, but he strongly prefers the thunder element. At that, the crystal ball changes color and begins to crackle with strong yellow electrical energy. The entire room is taken over by lightning, while the two sit in absolute silence just staring at the glowing object. Breaking the tense mood, the boy comments somewhat awkwardly that his affinity with thunder also seems to be maxed out. The blonde is in utter disbelief at the possibility of a perfect double affinity, calling the kid a freak of nature. Shortly after, Suhong appears holding the crystal with a green light, noting that the wind element also hit 100%. The shock is so great that a heavy silence dominates the luxurious office while the two sit on the couch. Holding her own head, the blonde tries to process the absurdity of all his affinities being maxed out, thinking she must be dreaming. The woman remembers when she considered herself a top-tier prodigy, being an extreme rarity in the martial world. But facing someone who defies all logic and common sense, she finally understands that she is just an ordinary person. She concludes that to defeat existences that break the world's rules, only warriors who are also beyond common sense have any chance of victory. Observing the relaxed boy on the couch, the president reflects that he is one of those incomprehensible anomalies for normal people. Meanwhile, the young man thinks it's a huge waste to focus only on thunder and leave the other 6 perfect elements aside. With that in mind, he asks for a copy of the techniques for all 7 attributes, leaving the woman completely speechless. Annoyed, she scolds him, saying that human energy has limits, and trying to train everything at once only results in total failure. The hero insists he wants to test all of them before choosing his focus, making the blonde yield, but with a warning not to waste his talent. Changing the subject, Suhong asks the reason for so much sudden interest in him, remembering that the monthly school exam is coming up. The blonde explains that the war against the beasts is getting worse, so the nations are going to open a genius camp, and she wants to recommend him for a spot. Later, the boy stares at his system screen, curious to know how he's going to manage to evolve these new guidance techniques. Trying to improve the skill, the panel beeps indicating a lack of martial points, making the young man decide to focus on getting more resources later. Back in his room, he sits on the floor meditating, surrounded by the glowing workbooks, beginning his new advanced training. Several hours later, the energy of the 7 elements flows through the boy's body, but the different attributes begin to violently repel each other. Sweating from the pain, the hero finally understands why geniuses spent decades stuck at level 1 when trying to cultivate everything at once. On the roof at night, he holds flames in his hand and realizes that spiritual energies only allow the use of 1 element at a time. Trying to force the simultaneous use of a second attribute, his body begins to reject the unstable mixture. The repulsive force causes a bright explosion, making the 2 powers clash aggressively and disappear into the air. Keeping his calm, he generates thunder and fire in his hands, concluding that similar natures might perhaps be fused. With a quick movement, the young man claps his hands, trying to force the pure union of the 2 volatile elements at once. A sequence of explosions lights up the building's roof, but he does not give up and swears to keep trying until he succeeds. The entire night passes, and the morning sun finally rises over the city's apartment complex. Completely exhausted and panting, he observes a small, stabilized spark in his hands and focuses on keeping united form. Defying his own limits, the protagonist shouts furiously, demanding that the colossal energy fuse once and for all. A violent boom echoes when the flames and lightning finally intertwine into a single mass of pure destructive power. Observing the sphere of electric fire in the palm of his hand, he celebrates the success after an entire night of back-to-back failures. Excited about the lethal new weapon, the boy clenches his fist and decides to go out to the street to test the true damage of this fusion. The scenery quickly changes to the great martial arts square of Star City, bathed in the peaceful morning light. The protagonist approaches a level 3 test robot, confident that this advanced machine won't break so easily from the impacts. He fires an explosive punch at the equipment, remembering that he used half his strength before, so now he will only test 30%. The scoreboard marks over 2,300 points, surprising the hero, who expected a much lower result. Evaluating the damage, he conjures only the thunder energy to compare the absurd difference in power in his hand. Next, he again generates the aggressive fusion of the 2 elements to be sure of the raw increase in strength. Without breaking rhythm, the boy sinks another devastating attack coated in lightning and flames straight into the metal target. The machine soon beeps, breaking the 3,000-point mark, leaving the young man quite impressed with the numbers. He concludes that using only a fraction of his strength, with the fusion already surpasses an advanced-level artist, even having low vitality. His imagination runs wild thinking about the apocalyptic power he would achieve if he managed to combine all 7 elements into a single strike. Thrilled with the idea, the hero extinguishes the flame in his hand and decides to run back home to try fusing the 3rd attribute. Back on the isolated roof, the young man sits on the floor to restart the intense and tiring meditation. Sweating profusely and completely shirtless, he laments that the difficulty multiplied absurdly, and he achieved no breakthrough in the new mixture. Looking at the glowing panel, Suhong reflects that leveling up the techniques might make the process easier, planning to gather a lot of points in tomorrow's exam. The next day, the school court wakes up completely packed with all the students lined up for the big event on the lawn. On stage, the principal announces that due to the tension of the war, the exam will be different to select the best for a special genius camp. In the crowd, the students gossip excitedly about the massive resources, pills, and high-level instructors the camp will offer. The arrogant purple-haired student yells excitedly that he wants the spot, while the crowd compares the instructor's level with the principal's own. With a bored look on his face, Suhong listens to the rules for the 3 spots and wonders if it wouldn't be better to just secure first place immediately. Nearby, a young man confesses that they have no chance, since the rich kids mastered the thunder punch and became martial artists. A teacher comments that the principal even brought an advanced master to give private lessons and focus entirely on those special talents. Staring at the protagonist with a sneer, the dojo rival promises to show who the real genius is and hopes the rookie doesn't lose his confidence. Outside the arena, the principal walks frustratedly, confessing that he hasn't found the 9 thunderclap genius at all. Suddenly, the old man's gaze turns strangely to a group approaching in the school courtyard. He greets Old Manly with irony, asking why his colleague is walking around with a scowl like someone who lost his wife. The visitor criticizes the quality of the local students and announces that he brought his own disciples to humiliate the champion of that tournament. Annoyed by the blatant provocation, the principal realizes that refusing the challenge would mean signing a certificate of cowardice in front of everyone. Inside the arena, Su-hong easily knocks out his opponent with a crushing kick right to the chest. Watching from the stands, the principal is perplexed, asking where that very strong student who wasn't in his classes came from. The responsible teacher takes the blame for the negligence in his work, while rival oldly scratches his chin, finding the boy quite familiar. Changing the mood quickly, the principal announces excitedly that the semifinal between the other favorite students is coming to an end in the main ring. The semifinal fight remains intense with the two competitors exchanging rapid blows. The audience watches the brawl and comments that it is impossible to predict who will win. At that, Chen channels icy energy and warns that his opponent stands no chance if he doesn't use his strongest attack as well. Without backing down, the other fighter charges through the air and fires a direct punch to clash head-on with the enemy attack. Chen praises the rival's training, but guarantees he is still the school's #1 as he advances with a flaming fist. The grandstand is shocked to see the boy's attribute projection. They comment that the fire element is only second in power to the thunder element. But the rival mocks the situation, asking who doesn't know how to do that, right before releasing his own intense energy. The students immediately recognize Li Tu's power and realize that his metal element is much stronger than fire in direct combat. Taking advantage of the elemental edge, the outsider completely shatters his opponent's flaming defense with a crushing attack. Stringing the combo together, Li Tu prepares the thunder punch technique to finish the job with 5 consecutive thunderclaps. The electric impact hits Chen squarely, throwing the poor guy forcefully against the arena floor. Watching everything, the principal laments that the rookie hit his true strength. He is impressed with the boy mastering so much in 10 days. Old Li shows off, saying that Su-hong has no chance in the final against his disciple, unless he also knows a guidance technique. Annoyed by the arrogance, another teacher bets 50,000 on the protagonist's victory. Old Li accepts the easy money right away. Soon the announcer calls the grand final match in the center of the ring. The masters yell from the stands, ordering their students to win at any cost. Staring down the hero, Li Tu states that he was very lucky their paths hadn't crossed earlier, already arming his offensive stance full of lightning. Totally relaxed, Su-hong comments that normal students are too weak, and finally someone worthy has appeared for him to train with. The outsider is furious at the mockery and warns the hero that he can settle for second place, but the boy ironically asks who would be in first. Losing his patience completely, Li Tu charges toward his opponent, shouting with full certainty that he will be the champion. He charges the electric technique to the maximum and warns that he only needs a single strike to show the absurd difference in power between them. The crowd goes into shock seeing the advanced attack right at the beginning of the fight, taking the protagonist's humiliating defeat as a given. Showing not a drop of fear, the hero's eyes shine intensely with an intimidating energy. Channeling a lot of power into his fist, the boy advances, determined to test once and for all the current limit of his own body. The students scream in despair, thinking it's utter madness for their classmate to try to go head-to-head with that lethal impact without dodging. But the two opponents collide roughly in a mind-blowing sequence of fast strikes in the center of the arena. Taking advantage of a tiny opening, the protagonist breaks the enemy guard, tearing through the electric defense with pure brute force. Li Tu is completely stunned to realize that his 5 thunderclaps were neutralized as if they were absolutely nothing. With a devastating explosion, Su-hong throws the arrogant rival into the air like a rag doll in a storm of energy. Falling without reacting, the outsider feels his body wrecked and recognizes that the boy's attacks are heavy like a monster's. The entire gym agrees that the rookie's power is bizarre for being able to cancel out such an advanced technique fighting purely on physical strength. The principal gives a loud laugh in the stands, extremely satisfied to confirm that his school produced a genius with a special physique. Sweating coldly, Old Li tries to keep up appearances by arguing that brute force is not enough, since his disciple masters an element and still has the advantage. Doubt in the ring, Li Tu slides across the court floor, trying to regain his balance after taking that absurd hit. Covered in intense lightning, the outsider yells for the hero to tone it down and promises he will still walk out of there with the victory. Overcome with hatred, he dashes, tearing through the air in an aggressive attack, and challenges the protagonist to try to stop him. Facing the danger with boredom, the boy regrets that his rival resorted to advanced moves too quickly right when he just wanted to test purely physical brawling. Deciding to hold nothing back anymore, the hero clenches his fist, summoning a golden storm of pure electrical energy around himself. Later, the sunset illuminates the apartment complex while the young man arrives home, telling his aunt and uncle he has finally returned. His uncle welcomes his nephew excitedly and immediately asks about the test results. With a broad smile, he announces he got first place. The aunt can barely believe the incredible achievement. Meanwhile, her husband celebrates, understanding that this victory guarantees the long-awaited spot in the special camp. However, amidst the family's lively celebration, loud knocks on the door interrupt dinner, catching the boy's attention. When he opens the door, he comes face to face with a very well-dressed woman standing in the hallway looking for the owner of the house. Confused by the unexpected visit from that snobby rich woman, the protagonist directly asks who she is. The snob explains that her son came in 4th place at school, and she came personally to ask the hero to give up his spot in the camp. With the greatest arrogance in the world, she immediately offers 30,000 coins right into his hand to buy the ranking. Facing the dirty bribe right at the front door, the mood gets heavy and the boy's entire family glares at the woman's audacity. Annoyed by the silent refusal, the snob tries to instill terror by saying that people get severely hurt at the camp and that giving up is for his own good. After spitting out her venomous truths, the woman turns her back and leaves down the building's hallway thinking she is right. Inside, the aunt hugs her nephew's arm and asks with great fear if that place is really that dangerous. The uncle tries to calm his wife down, asking her to take a deep breath and not fall for the arrogant rich woman's nonsense. Looking at the boy with total seriousness, the older man asks if he can guarantee his own safety in this challenge. Without hesitating for even a second, the protagonist returns a look full of confidence, insisting he will come back safe. The uncle mildly scolds his wife for doubting the boy and states that their nephew is adult enough to make his own decisions. Overcome with enormous worry about the danger, the woman can't handle the pressure of the moment and flees into the bedroom in tears. Meanwhile, outside, the snob walks away grumbling indignantly, wishing that the boy gets eliminated quickly from the training. Back in the simple living room, Su-hong apologizes for not having told them about the dangers earlier, but his uncle says it's alright. Being very understanding, the veteran admits to being a simple man and guarantees total support since the young man knows what is best for his future. At that, the aunt returns, gently hitting her husband for talking nonsense, and tearfully begs her nephew to just focus on coming back safely. Feeling the weight of that pure and genuine love, the boy breaks into a calm smile and agrees with the woman's affectionate concern. Later on the edge of the roof, the hero watches the night fall and swears he needs to get stronger and stronger to protect his precious family. Analyzing the glowing system screen, he realizes he has accumulated almost 300 martial points, but knows that is still very little. Su-hong reflects that he has no idea what techniques the camp's geniuses master, so he decides to spend his points to level up his physical structure first. Soon the boy's body begins to violently expand, creating absurd muscles that tear through the air with a brutal red energy. Taking a deep breath while returning to normal, he watches his mark reach almost 65% and wonders what comes after the limit. Suddenly, the panel notifies him that his guidance techniques leveled up to 2 on their own, leaving him totally confused about how that happened. Analyzing the weird situation, the hero concludes that since he only trained the basics over the last few days, his power must passively evolve with natural cultivation. Excited about the useful discovery, he decides to pick up the pace and summons the flames and lightning in his hands, wanting to force another level up. The late night slowly advances over the silent metropolis until the first rays of the sun begin to illuminate the tallest buildings. Completely focused on the intense meditation, the young fighter reaches level 3, mastering the elements with a destructive aura around him. Checking the final results on the screen, he celebrates that besides the skill levels, his vitality also went up, yielding a great harvest. On that same sunny morning, the commotion of the trip begins early outside the humble apartment complex. With his backpack on, the boy listens to his uncle telling him to bring back first place from there. While saying goodbye to his family on his way to the challenge, the couple watches their nephew walking down the quiet street, carrying the weight of all expectations and dreams in one place. The man tries to hide the sadness of the farewell, but the aunt cries, confessing she just didn't want to make the boy worry for nothing. Carrying his long bag with his spear, Su-hong walks through the busy streets of the commercial center with the posture of a true warrior. Keeping his gaze focused on his great goal, the protagonist moves forward, knowing that the genius camp will be the ultimate test of his life. Walking determinedly down the streets, Su-hong carries his spear as he heads to the training camp meeting point. Suddenly, a red sports car brakes sharply right in front of the protagonist, cutting him off. Rolling down the window, President Wu Lingshan appears wearing sunglasses and tells the boy to get in the vehicle without much ceremony. They soon hit the open road, leaving the big city behind at high speed toward the great challenge. Their destination is the imposing Tianlin mountain range, a massive chain of mountains stretching across the horizon. In the back seat, a boy panics when he remembers that the mountain range is home to entire herds of brutal monsters. A classmate tries to calm him down by assuring him the area is safe, but mentions that in the depths live beasts on the same level as a grandmaster. At that, the scene shows the region's harsh wildlife, indicating that the competition among the monsters there is extremely intense. The aggressiveness of these creatures is so absurd that not even a level 2 martial artist would dare step into that territory easily. The van drives down a narrow dirt road, diving deeper and deeper into the dense and dark part of the forest. Hidden in the darkness between the trees, several glowing red eyes watch the vehicle pass with pure hostility. Feeling the heavy atmosphere, One of the students comments that they are being watched and asks in a panic if they are going to suffer a surprise attack right there. Instead of feeling fear, Soo-hong concludes that the competition among the geniuses will be as fierce as the monsters and finds it all exciting. A short time later, the group finally arrives at the huge fenced military camp, already crowded with competitors from various cities. Stepping out of the vehicle, the hero observes the crowd of talented young people, wondering what the actual strength level of each of them must be. The training area is full of prodigies, all showing off a lot of confidence and carrying heavy weapons for the tournament. Faced with so many tough people, the protagonist's classmates swallow hard, feeling the crushing pressure of the intense competition. On the contrary, the young fighter gets excited, thinking it is great to have so many strong opponents gathered in a single place. Wasting no time, he adjusts the spear on his shoulder and calls the group to join the crowd in the center of the evaluation courtyard. His classmates hesitantly agree and follow the hero's firm steps into the main gathering area. A little further ahead, a supervisor in a suit announces that they are just waiting for everyone to arrive to start the admission test. This delay makes some rookies annoyed, complaining that the rich kids from the big families always think they can make others wait for nothing. Suddenly, the loud noise of engines tears through the camp as a convoy of luxury cars arrives to grab everyone's attention. The incredibly expensive vehicles park in the middle of the dust, and the big stars of the tournament begin to step out with a lot of attitude. Three young people steal the scene, showing off their overwhelming telekinesis, ice, and fire powers, leaving the entire crowd amazed. With an attitude of absolute superiority, the trio walks through the courtyard, making the crowd naturally part ways out of pure respect. The protagonist watches the rich kids pass by with great attention, recognizing the obvious favoritism for that elite team. Analyzing the trio, the hero remembers the president's warnings and is curious to test up close how strong those prodigies really are. With the arrival of the big stars, the supervisor finally steps onto the stage to announce the general rules of the entrance exam. He explains with a firm voice that the real camp is located 30 kilometers away, deep inside the forest. The man holds up a wooden sign, revealing that the entrance pass was hidden inside the stomachs of the region's beasts. The news hits like a bomb for the weaker students, terrified of the huge risk of getting eliminated while hunting high-level monsters to advance. Maintaining his calm, Soo-hong does the math and realizes he will have plenty of time left over to take down beasts and accumulate several martial points. A desperate boy asks what happens if they run into an absurdly strong creature, receiving the cold answer that no one will save them. The courtyard turns into total chaos, with the young people shouting indignantly that the rule is unfair and based purely on pure luck. Totally out of patience with the whining, the man in the suit frowns and yells that the real world is not a child's game. He throws it in the cowards' faces that the law of survival demands caution, reminding them that the strongest always overcome the weakest on the battlefield. With a lot of contempt, the examiner points to the gate, telling anyone who is afraid of failing to give up right now. A young man feels offended and threatens to fight, but the supervisor challenges the insolent guy, promising to put him out of commission if he takes another step forward. Resuming the reading of the rules, the man warns that conflicts are forbidden there at the base, but inside the mountain, there will be no intervention. Knowing the forest is a lawless land, the more aggressive hunters soon exchange malicious looks, aiming to rob the weaker candidates. Soo-hong notices the malice in the air and perfectly understands that the evaluation system was made on purpose to encourage fights and eliminate half the people. Excited by the opportunity to defeat troublemakers on the loose, the hero relies on the absurd amount of martial points he can make by taking them down. The supervisor presses the stopwatch with a lot of force and declares the immediate start of the test, telling everyone to get out of his sight. A desperate crowd sprints toward the dense forest, running each other over in a crazy rush for survival. Using his extreme agility, the hero slides swiftly between the tree trunks, leaving the other candidates eating dust. In the middle of the woods, an unsuspecting candidate takes a fast and intense hit to the head from a piece of wood in a very cowardly surprise attack. Soo-hong holds the piece of wood over two knocked-out rich kids, paying them back with interest for underestimating normal students. In the monitoring room, the evaluators are completely confused seeing an unknown student easily take down two aggressive fighters. The head of security simply crosses his arms and tells them to let the test continue normally since the defeated rookies didn't call for help. Fallen on the dirty forest floor, one of the guys in suits groans in pain, holding his own head hurt by the heavy wooden strike. Still disoriented, the young man gets a terrible scare when a piece of wood aggressively flies by, scraping his face. While the preppy kid swears heavy revenge for the humiliation, the protagonist is already focused on sinking a brutal electric punch into a monster. The guy in the suit gets up, dusting himself off, and tries to justify the embarrassment by claiming he only lost badly because he underestimated the boy too much. His teammate approaches shaken, and the two exchange a long look full of anger and resentment over the lightning-fast defeat. Putting his pride aside, the partner admits the huge mistake and confesses that the mysterious rookie is actually much stronger than he looked. Determined not to let it slide, the guy in the suit supports his friend, promising to get that same piece of wood to get back at the bold kid. But reaching the target would be impossible now, since the hero speeds up his pace, running like a flash of lightning through the green paths. Suddenly, a loud noise breaks the natural silence of the dense woods and immediately catches the curious boy's attention. He stops his run when he comes face to face with another huge herd of wild boars, annoyed by the boring repetition of beasts in his path. The boar sporting gigantic tusks lets out an angry grunt, totally focused on running over and crushing the invader in its own territory. Ignoring the intense threat, the boy unleashes a sequence of heavy attacks, sweeping away several huge pigs in a sonic blast. Using the 9 thunderclaps of his technique perfectly, the hero wipes out the aggressive pack in a relentless festival of purely destructive lightning. With the beast crushed on the dirt floor, he lands smoothly, keeping his spear ready while the yellow energy still burns. Observing the internal system, the boy notices that the score for these beasts dropped because his overall strength level went up a lot. Wasting no time, he pierces the fat belly of one of the remains, urgently hunting for the tag that guarantees access to the main tournament. The rookie opens the messy stomach of more than 10 boars scattered around the clearing, dealing with a gross smell of destroyed remains. Cleaning his dirty hands, he concludes in frustration that the examiners only stuffed the passes inside the truly dangerous monsters. Decided to solve this delay right away, the protagonist starts running fast again, diving deep into the thick forest for half an hour straight. He complains in annoyance that he bumped into dozens of useless beasts earlier, and now he can't find any target challenging enough. As a precise and fast response, a giant black tiger leaps fiercely from the darkness of the bushes, attacking directly from behind. Instead of being startled by the feline's dangerous trap, the fighter is pleased to finally find a very valuable advanced prey. Turning his body without losing balance, he concentrates his piercing power in his finger and fires a straight, intense blue burst, tearing through the cold air. The solid impact knocks the heavy tiger forcefully against the cracked ground, kicking up a lot of thick dust in the middle of the sudden attack. With the newly defeated monster at his feet, the hero doesn't wait around and spins his spear, quickly cutting through the air to extract the gross prize. The clash of Su-hong's spear against the beast creates an explosion of energy in the middle of the forest. With the monster taken down, the boy pulls his weapon calmly and confirms that defeating high-level beasts is very easy now. Searching the heavy carcass of the tiger, he looks for the approval token in the middle of the mess. Holding the messy pass, the hero complains that he wasted almost 3 hours just to find a single one of these items. At that, several high-level black tigers appear, surrounding the boy from the shadows of the dense woods. Analyzing the time, the protagonist deduces that it's not worth hunting the bigger beasts if they take so long to show up. Instead of focusing on quality, he decides that the best strategy to accumulate points fast is to bet purely on quantity. With only 5 hours left on the timer, the young man picks up his pace, focused on maximizing the progress of his physical body. Along the forest path, remains of destroyed monsters show the trail of defeat left by the rookie. A herd of wild boars runs desperately through the area trying to escape the imminent danger. Showing no mercy, the boy slides between the beasts, taking down everything in front of him with extreme agility. Taking advantage of his absurd speed, he dodges attacks and continues his relentless hunt to farm points. After eliminating dozens of weak beasts, the fighter finally finds a mid-level monster and prepares a flaming punch. The intense strike charged with fire hits the creature dead on, causing a devastating explosion of light across the scenery. Suffering the direct impact, a giant bear roars in agony while its body is pushed by the absurd force of the attack. The beast's immense body crashes violently against the pitted mountain ground, raising dust. A continuous pillar of fire sinks the creature into the earth, marking the boy's absolute victory over the aggressive animal. Landing with style near the scorched remains, he takes a deep breath after unleashing so much destructive power all at once. The young man clenches his fist, excited about managing to eliminate mid-level monsters using only his brute strength, without much effort. Checking the glowing system screen, the hero celebrates that he only needs 100 points to max out his mortal body's progress. With only 3 hours left until the end of the test, he grips his spear, determined to go after what he needs as fast as possible. Suddenly, a terrifying windstorm sweeps through the entire forest, shaking the treetops violently. Surprised by the sudden change, the protagonist looks up at the sky, not understanding where that deafening noise came from. A colossal shadow covers the area while a gigantic, golden bird flies over the mountains with grandeur. The legendary beast lets out a piercing screech that echoes through the whole valley, releasing a crushing pressure. The boy sticks his spear into the ground so he isn't blown away, shocked by the terrifying strength of the king of beasts. Just the flapping of the giant bird's wings creates a shockwave that snaps the trees in half as if they were twigs. Fighting against the windstorm, Su-hong slides across the rocks, trying to keep his balance at any cost. Feeling the weight of that aura, the young man swallows his own pride and admits he is nothing but an ant compared to experts of that level. At that, a strange glow crosses the sky, catching the rookie's attention in the middle of all that absolute chaos. The golden eagle glares furiously at a sphere of pure light hovering just above its sacred territory. The glow fades, revealing Grandmaster Chun Tianli floating calmly with an authoritative posture. The giant monster advances, screeching that it never agreed to lend its area for human training. With zero patience, the veteran warns that he will teach the beast a lesson until it learns to agree, whether it likes it or not. In the blink of an eye, the Grandmaster fires a powerful kick straight into the colossal bird's beak. The impact sends the king of beasts flying backward as it screeches, feeling the pain of the humiliating hit. Annoyed by the noise, the man gathers energy in his hands, complaining that the animal is too loud. Desperate to fight back, the eagle fires a fast burst of explosive feathers at the cocky invader. The veteran blocks the attacks with the greatest of ease, crushing the golden feathers with his bare hands. Pressuring the creature, Kyun Tianli tells it to get out of there at once, stating that later he will also take the deeper lands. Retreating, the beast vows revenge while the Grandmaster just tells the animal to be quiet and disappear. Silence once again dominates the valley, and the veteran maintains his heavy gaze, observing the testing field below. Using his energy, he projects his voice, letting all the students know they don't need to panic and that the test continues. Sitting on a rock, Su-hong breathes a sigh of relief and is amazed by the unreal power of a rank 7 martial artist. Totally motivated by this display of raw strength, the boy promises himself that he will reach that level too. With the threat gone, the surveillance drones resume patrolling the mountain ruins, focusing on the candidates. In a luxurious monitoring base, the evaluation team lines up in respect as the Grandmaster descends from the sky. 2 level 5 supervisors whisper, impressed, stating that the veteran's strength is even more absurd than the rumors. The old man tells them to cut the cheap flattery and asks to quickly see on the screens which students withstood the eagle's pressure. The team immediately agrees, and everyone stares at the giant panel showing the few young people who didn't pass out from the aura. The Grandmaster points to Su-hong on the screen, surprised that the rookie took down high-level tigers and stayed on his feet in the windstorm. A supervisor confuses the hero with the mayor's son of Star City, deducing that he has the special physique of the barbarian god. Another staff member praises a boy using extreme agility to escape the giant bird's pressure unharmed. The team also highlights a girl using pure telekinetic powers to cancel out the monster's crushing force. The old man listens to the list of mid-level prodigies from Star City but asks if there aren't any other real talents there. The supervisor explains that those students easily withstood the beast's pressure, proving their strength far surpasses the others. Rejecting the excuse, Kin criticizes the students from the main high school, thinking it's a shame none of them truly stood out. Suddenly, one of the staff members breaks a cold sweat upon noticing a bizarre movement on the cameras and calls everyone's attention. The screen focuses on the protagonist taking down monsters in the middle of the forest, maintaining intense energy even after the boss's windstorm. Totally in shock, the records woman stammers in disbelief, realizing that that student is a true monster in disguise. Keeping his calm, the veteran tells the employee to stop making a scene in front of him over a small thing. The other supervisor also panics, pointing at the data and calling the boy a complete anomaly. Annoyed by the team's uproar, the Grandmaster asks what kind of geniuses they've seen to be freaking out like that. However, upon glancing at the boy's technical file, the old man himself loses his composure and his eyes widen in total amazement. The document reveals that Su-hong has a 100% affinity in all 7 attributes and colossal physical strength. Grabbing his own hair, the veteran shouts in disbelief that it's a miracle such a prodigy was born in a small town. Trembling with pure excitement, he clenches his fist tightly, celebrating having found an extremely rare treasure in the camp. An evaluate interrupts the outburst, reminding him that the boy has very low vital energy for so much talent, which doesn't make sense. The realization quickly hits the Grandmaster, who understands that the kid is trying to cultivate all 7 energies at the same time, putting himself at great risk. Taking control, the old man ignores the team and announces that the candidates are already arriving, so he will go down there himself to take a look. Already in the courtyard of the safe camp, the trio of rich kids politely greets the veteran while he praises their performance. The area slowly fills up with normal students arriving totally exhausted and relieved to have survived the test. Time passes, and the sunset colors the camp as the instructors believe all the qualified candidates have arrived. Worried, the Grandmaster thinks to himself whether his precious treasure named Su-hong ended up getting lost and eliminated. But crushing everyone's doubts, the protagonist finally appears, walking calmly down the dirt trail holding his spear. Su-hong walks in covered in mess and carrying his spear, arriving right at the time limit, flying under the radar. Observing the boy's condition, the other competitors whisper in shock about the number of beasts he must have had to defeat. At that, a young man sitting in a corner says he was finally waiting for him and plans a way to deal with the rookie. Finding the situation interesting, the big guy in the tank top agrees while the rest of the elite group watches the hero. The supervisor then announces that the 8 hours are up and anyone who didn't make it is totally eliminated from the camp. He begins to explain the rules and introduces the main areas, like the gravity, movement, and beast combat simulation rooms. The martial arts pavilion is also highlighted as one of the most important places in the complex. Sitting on the ground exhausted, the protagonist concludes that coming to this advanced camp was definitely the right choice. However, to use all these incredible facilities, one must accumulate a lot of contribution points. The supervisor in the suit details that the only way to get these points is by passing the training tests with flying colors. Since it's getting late, the man dismisses the healthy students to train and sends the injured straight to the dorms to rest. Already in his individual room, the hero is relieved to have privacy to train and level up without anyone snooping around. He opens the glowing system and celebrates having reached 354 martial value points to spend. Wasting no time, the boy dumps all the points into his mortal body, generating an intense red aura around him. The evolution hits 100%, pushing the fighter's muscles to the extreme limit in a wave of raw power. The red energy continues to burn intensely while his veins pulse with the new strength. Suddenly, the accumulated power bursts, breaking the air and tearing through the space around the room. Panting, Su-hong takes a deep breath, feeling his body return to normal after the aggressive transformation. He clenches his own fist, totally shocked that a simple physical attack is now so terrifyingly strong. Looking at the holographic screen, he discovers he awakened the Overlord's body, the most powerful physique in existence. The system shows that the spirit rating is at 0, leaving the boy curious about the next bizarre evolutions. Casually putting on his jacket, he admits that this new physical structure is absolutely unbelievable. The hero then grabs his spear leaning against the wall, testing his firm grip on the weapon. Analyzing the material, he realizes it's a Class C alloy and that it almost broke just from his strong squeeze. Lamenting the situation, the young man remembers he spent an absurd fortune to buy this fragile equipment. But then he realizes he got this spear for free from one of the defeated hunters in the wild area. Knowing he can earn points just by using a weighted vest, he leaves the room focused on testing his limits. Arriving at the training warehouse, the massive area is packed with students testing heavy equipment. In the middle of the place, the big guy Wang Tiantu jumps easily while wearing a 3,000-kilogram vest as if it were nothing. Observing the scene, the white-haired female instructor praises the monstrous strength of that impressive brute. In the control room, the team monitors the cameras, praising the power of that huge student's barbarian god physique. The supervisor takes the opportunity to ask Grandmaster Kyun when they are going to warn Su-hong about the danger of the 7 techniques. The veteran explains that prodigies are very arrogant, and any direct warning will only backfire. Therefore, they need to force the rookie to give up on his own, asking right after if the invasion team is ready. One of the instructors agrees, guaranteeing that a surprise attack at night will make the rookies cry a lot. The Grandmaster orders them to send a high-level martial artist to completely crush the hero. Worried about the difference in strength, an employee warns that the boy's vitality is too low for such a fight. Showing no pity, the leader states that if the kid's confidence breaks that easily, he's just garbage. Back at the warehouse, the crowd runs excitedly, announcing that the big guy is heading straight for the gravity room. With the place clearing out, the protagonist decides to go take a look at his rival's performance, too. Before leaving, he notices a self-service machine to grab the wristbands that calculate points. The boy wastes no time and grabs a giant weighted vest from among the leftover equipment. Analyzing the piece, he notices that the material weighs an absurd 10,000 kilograms of super heavy A alloy. Putting on the equipment, the fighter feels the immense pressure crushing his shoulders and admits this greatly affects his speed. Even with all that absurd weight, he takes off in a blazing sprint, cutting through the wind down the base's hallway. Walking calmly, Su-hong reflects that a 5,000-kilogram load is more than ideal for his current training. Watching the muscular veterans pass by, he wonders what weight the brute chose to use today. Arriving at the observation area, the hero approaches the glass, hoping to learn something useful. The giant screen shows Wang Tianchu training in the room with double gravity while still wearing his heavy vest. The crowd watches in awe, calculating that the giant is withstanding a crushing proof of 6,000 kilograms in total. Staring at the screen, the protagonist crosses his arms, thinking the 3,000 kilograms of his rival's vest are way too light. At that, the students notice a rookie struggling to handle just 500 kilograms in the same room. They mock the poor guy fallen on the floor, claiming it's a joke for someone weak to try to compare themselves to a powerhouse. Suddenly, the door opens, and the big guy finally steps out of the extreme training area sweating profusely. Showing off all his tough physique, he rips his shirt, drawing everyone's attention in the hallway. The crowd applauds the display of absurd endurance as the fighter walks imposingly past them. Sighing with relief, the brute admits that the continuous pressure of that gravity is truly terrifying. A guy with white hair praises his strength, but thinks it's crazy for the giant to want to go compete in the movement room now. The mention of a rank A movement technique instantly sparks the interest of Su-hong, who listens to everything from afar. The boy finds that interesting, remembering that the only thing missing from his arsenal is precisely that kind of skill. Inside the movement room, the setting displays advanced technology filled with laser arrow shooters. The audience is in disbelief to see that the difficulty level was adjusted to the absolute maximum. In the middle of the arena, Lin Sing dodges the shots with such absurd speed that the eyes can barely follow. He shows off his fancy technique, leaving a trail of flower petals, wanting to show that he looks very stylish fighting. Finding the skill amazing, the hero begins to copy the movement, and the system marks 1% mastery. The protagonist's eyes shine intensely as he focuses on every detail of the fast veteran's posture. Without a second thought, he steps forward, adopting the exact same dodging stance as the guy in the suit. The students around notice the rookie's weird movements and start paying attention to him. The crowd bursts out laughing, finding it ridiculous that the boy is trying to learn a rank A skill just by watching. Ignoring the laughter, Su-hong summons the copy in his mental space, perfectly avoiding all the fast lasers. The training in the virtual space accelerates absurdly, making the technique's mastery jump to almost 100% in an instant. With an explosion of blue aura, he finally reaches the basic level of the skill, mastering the steps flawlessly. Exiting the simulation, the boy finds the technique's movements too flashy and even feels embarrassed to use it. Since he managed to steal the knowledge, he decides he doesn't need to stay there anymore and plans to go hunt beasts to earn points. However, all the students stare at the rookie in shock, leaving him confused, thinking he hadn't imitated the handsome veteran's embarrassing pose. The protagonist is confused and wonders if he ended up doing those exaggerated poses in the real world as well. Dying of embarrassment from the scene, he decides he will never again use that veteran's skills as an example. Right then, the veteran himself cuts through the air at high speed using his fancy movement technique. The female students scream, completely in love, asking the handsome rookie to repeat the incredible move. Away from the commotion, Su-hong walks through the base until he notices out of the corner of his eye that he is being followed. The two troublemakers who took a beating from him earlier peek from afar, confirming that the target went to the beast room. With anger in their eyes, they plan to block the door and give the boy a heavy lesson when he tries to leave. Just ahead, the gigantic beast containment building stands tall under the camp's peaceful lighting. Once inside, Su-hong watches from afar the tense interaction between the big guy Wang Tianchu and the skilled Yan. The brute gives a mocking laugh, warning that her spiritual power has no chance against his barbarian god physique. Without backing down, the girl maintains her confidence and fires back, saying he is the one underestimating spiritual readers. Listening to the conversation, the hero gets very curious, since he has never seen this class's combat style in action. Taking advantage of the great chance, he decides to watch the girl's demonstration before going to hunt his own monsters. As soon as he approaches the observation glass, the boy gets a huge scare from the bizarre scene in the arena. Totally in disbelief, he notices that the girl is simply levitating in the air, proving the absurd strength of the spiritual class. The girl's hand glows intensely, firing beams of light that take down 3 high-level tigers in the blink of an eye. Staring at the takedown, the boy is totally shocked, trying to understand what those fast, glowing streaks were. Suddenly, a terrifying giant bear lets out a furious roar, calling the prodigy to combat. The wild beast charges hard, but the young woman uses her spiritual power to easily lock the animal's movements. On the big screen, a colossal sword cuts through the air, destroying the monster's defense without the slightest difficulty. Watching closely, Su-hong finally notices that the glowing lights from before were small flying daggers. He concludes that spiritual readers are absurdly strong for being able to crush regular warriors just by levitating weapons. The crowd of students goes wild in the observation room, screaming in shock as they see the massive power of that giant sword. The spiritual weapon mercilessly sinks into the body of a colossal snake, drawing a cry of pain from the creature. Keeping a cold and focused expression, Ian slices the giant serpent in half, spreading destruction through the arena. The protagonist is amazed to note that the girl manipulates a weapon weighing tons without even touching it. A veteran in a suit approaches, revealing that this is a rank A technique exclusive to the spiritual class. The rookies panic when they discover the power level and ask if the big guy Wang Tianchu also possesses something like that. The veteran assures them he does, while the monitor shows the brute blasting a beast away using pure physical strength. Very excited about the new challenges, Su-hong turns around, planning to steal the giant's technique later, and checks the system. Cracking his knuckles, Su-hong focuses on his goal, declaring he is going to cause total chaos to get points. Outside the arena, the two troublemakers watch their target enter the combat simulator alone. They celebrate the perfect chance, noticing that everyone is distracted by the veterans and the boy is totally vulnerable. However, one of the henchmen's eyes widen in pure despair as he catches a glimpse of the control monitor for the rookie's room. Completely stunned, he nudges his partner, telling him to look at the broadcast screen immediately. The duo goes into absolute shock, seeing that the boy selected more than 12 high-level beasts all at once. Desperate, they even consider calling an instructor, thinking the kid is going to get torn to pieces in seconds. Inside, Su-hong assumes an aggressive combat stance, facing the horde of heavy monsters. Overflowing with pure confidence, the boy smiles and gestures with his hands, calling the beast to fight. Answering the taunt, a monstrous scorpion lets out a piercing screech, kicking up dust on the stone floor. The beast attempts an intense piercing attack, but the hero jumps agilely, dodging the lethal claw with ease. Still in mid-air, he gathers a storm of blue lightning spinning violently in the palm of his hand. The electric punch sinks straight into the monster's thick shell, generating a deafening shockwave through the warehouse. Without giving the beast room to breathe, he channels even more destructive energy, preparing the next attack. In an endless festival of pure destruction, the rookie sweeps through the entire pack, leaving a trail of defeat and lightning in the area. Watching the intense battle through the glass, the henchmen break a cold sweat, wondering if that student is really just a normal rookie. One of them immediately recognizes the boy's fast footsteps, confirming it is the handsome veteran's luxury technique. He doesn't understand how a random student got access to an advanced power guarded by such a wealthy family. It quickly hits them that the genius learned it all just by watching for a few minutes, proving that trying to get revenge on him is suicide. Even trembling with fear, the henchman grips the iron bar tightly, refusing to accept such humiliation. Trying to build up courage, the troublemaker argues that the rookie surely won't survive the massive attack from the monsters. Breathing heavily in the middle of the destroyed scenery, the boy wipes the sweat from his face after clearing the first wave of enemies. The duo outside swallows hard, falling into absolute silence as they see the unlikely outcome of the battle. In a matter of minutes, the 10 high-level monsters are already completely crushed on the arena floor. Analyzing the panel, the protagonist sighs in frustration because the whole takedown yielded very few martial points. His expression darkens as he quickly realizes that the stronger he gets, the harder it is to level up in the system. At that, a deep roar echoes from the end of the dark hallway, revealing the glowing red eyes of the next horde. Determined to extract everything from the training, the boy cracks his neck and orders the machine to keep releasing enemies. Responding to the aggressive command, a terrifying beast leaps from the darkness, cutting through the air with sharp claws ready to strike. Fueled by an absurd flaming aura, the hero charges head-on, firing a devastating punch to run the animal over. Su-hong's golden fist crushes the first monster against the ground, generating a shockwave that breaks everything around it. Undaunted, the rest of the pack surrounds a rookie from all sides, trying to find an opening for the fatal strike. However, the dangerous pressure given off by the boy is so terrifying that the beasts themselves begin to step back in fear. With eyes shining with pure hunter's fury, he shouts, demanding the monsters not run away and hand over all their points. Acting like a true predator, the fighter leaps brutally, pulling one of the fleeing beasts by the tail. The combat turns into a true hurricane of wild action, with the protagonist throwing the heavy remains through the air non-stop. On the other side of the glass, the duo of bullies watches the constant flash of intense explosions in the monitoring room. Trembling from head to toe, they decide that revenge is a waste of time and agree to run away from there as fast as possible. Already in the courtyard, the crowd praises Wang Tiantua's performance for having taken down 9 high-level beasts in a few minutes. One of the students notices the henchman's return and laughingly asks if they managed to give the isolated rookie the promised lesson. They hide their shame by ironically agreeing, but thinking they would be completely finished if they had actually pushed their luck. Suddenly, the huge containment doors open, and the instructor announces that the big stars of the camp have stepped out. Sweating heavily, Wang and Yan emerge from the dark hallway, showing off their confidence after an extremely intense training session inside. The scoreboard lights up, revealing 280 points for the big guy and 270 for the girl, shocking everyone. The young woman gives a competitive smile, pointing out that the 10-point difference only existed because of her rival's weighted vest. Seeing the scoreboard, the regular students complain tearfully that they only managed 20 or 10 points in the hunt. But one of them points ahead, wanting to know who won the monster hunting competition. The crowd assumes that the rich kid Lin Sing must have gotten an absurd score and that they can only fight for 4th place. Listening to the conversation, an isolated student thinks they are all ignorant and warns that there is an even more terrifying monster in this camp. An hour later, the scene shows the training building with battle marks scattered across the walls. The protagonist appears resting in a corner after making a truly massive pile of defeated monsters. Completely sweaty and exhausted, he lets out a heavy sigh, trying to catch his breath from the battle. Su-hong admits that hunting beasts non-stop is too tiring even for someone with the Overlord's body structure. Even with all this extreme effort, the boy laments that he is still very far from getting the martial points he needs. However, he checks his watch and notices he has accumulated 700 contribution points, becoming curious about what he can trade them for. At that, the late afternoon illuminates the traditional and imposing facade of the camp's martial arts pavilion. Inside, the hero walks through the spacious hall, observing the students choosing their items at the service counter. Reading the floating catalog, he analyzes the prices of the level 1 healing and energy pills. The young man also checks the advanced skills, finding it absurd that they cost thousands of points. Satisfied with the cheaper options, he thinks the pills' price is fair and is very interested in the spiritual focus items. The attendant approaches, waving her fan, and calmly asks if her colleague has already chosen what he is going to take. Analyzing the rookie, she assumes he is at a very early level and probably doesn't have the funds to buy anything good. The boy ignores the judgment and confirms if the focus pill increases mental power, and the woman guarantees it does. Checking the paper catalog, he discovers that the rank 4 pill is the best available and costs 500 points. Without hesitation, Su-hong raises a finger and orders the most expensive pill straight from the cashier. The employee's jaw completely drops, thinking she heard the rookie's absurd request wrong. Keeping his calm, the protagonist reaffirms that he wants the level 4 pill, not caring about the other person's surprise. The boy taps his watch on the machine, paying the fortune right away, leaving the attendant stunned that he has so many points. Quickly changing her attitude, the woman hands over the box with a big smile, and he takes the opportunity to order a law elemental spears as well. Night finally falls over the traditional structures of the base, illuminated by the intense glow of the full moon. The scene cuts to the modern dormitory area, totally silent and with few lights on in the windows. Already in the hero's room, 2 flawless alloy metal spears rest leaning near the wooden wall. Sitting on the bed, he stares at the glowing screen, thrilled to have evolved much more in a single day than a whole week. The young man opens the little box, revealing the golden pill, calculating that he needs a little over 20 points to hit his goal. Popping the valuable item straight into his mouth, he swallows, hoping the pill does exactly what it promised. With a confident smile, Su-hong points to himself, guaranteeing that he will become a powerful spiritual reader today. The pill takes immediate effect, and the boy's body glows, revealing a complex network of green energy pulsing through his chest. His eyes shine while his exhausted nerves completely relax, bringing a wonderful sensation of rest. The fighter's consciousness floats in an expansive virtual space, feeling his mind so clear that he can perceive everything around him. Coming back to his senses, the boy is impressed by the item's power as the panel notifies him he gained 24 points. Looking at his hands, he regrets having gotten so close to the limit, missing the big breakthrough by just 0.5%. Lying on the bed with his arms crossed, he regrets not having taken down one more monster to settle the score today. A wide shot shows the camp's giant warehouse while the boy decides he will just rest tonight. The place is buzzing with activity, with dozens of soldiers gathering to receive classified instructions. One of the giants complains to a colleague, wanting to know why experienced warriors like them were called in to babysit. The mercenary with the earring cockily agrees, stating that back in their school days, these geniuses wouldn't even serve as punching bags. Laughing at his friend's attitude, the bald guy reminds them that the rookie Wang Tiantuo already has a level his colleague never even dreamed of. The veteran with glasses shows his file, revealing that his target has absurd strength, while the skinny guy announces he is going to hunt a reader. Holding Su Hong's file, one soldier finds his partner's strong targets very strange, since the boy has a very weak level. Annoyed by the mission, he holds up the paper wanting to understand why he was chosen to ambush such a fragile target. The leader impatiently states that there was no mistake in choosing the soldier assigned for the night mission. The old veteran walks with his hands in his pockets, maintaining a stern expression that immediately quiets everyone down. Breaking the tense mood, the entire team is shocked, asking what kind of monster can fight so well while having low energy. The long-haired soldier sighs, complaining that he is almost leveling up but was called just to bully a junior. With zero patience, the Grandmaster reaches out his hand, ordering the men to stop whining and just go fight. Finding the order too personal, the henchman with the earring asks if the old man won't punish him if he ends up putting the student out of commission. The leader flashes a scary smile, guaranteeing he will reward him if he breaks the boy, leaving the soldier breaking a cold sweat. Receiving the harsh command, the team of mercenaries leaps strongly from the walkways, starting the relentless night mission. The silent early morning covers the deserted streets and the large roofs of the military training camp. Sliding swiftly through the shadows, the assigned soldier moves across the roof, totally focused on his target. Sleeping peacefully, Su Hong wakes up startled and yells for the invisible intruder to wait for him to put on some underwear first. With the alert triggered, the boy agilely jumps out of bed, grabbing his warm clothes so he doesn't fight unprepared. He puts on his jacket in a swift motion while evaluating the danger of that sudden attack at his door. The window glass shatters intensely, revealing the mercenary invading the place, tearing through the air with a lot of aggression. Falling from above, the enemy wields a sword emanating purple energy and unleashes a crushing slash straight at the floor. Sliding backward, the hero deduces that this surprise attack must be the work of enemy races wanting to eliminate human geniuses. Without hesitating, he grabs his spear from the wall and assumes a combat stance, waiting to see that rogue's true strength. The veteran launches another bright charge, mocking that the kid had terrible luck crossing paths with him today. Blocking the heavy energy, the boy realizes the enemy is a high-level human and not a disguised monster. An excited smile takes over Su Hong's face as he mockingly declares that this opponent showed up at the perfect time. Spitting his spear with skill, the rookie calculates that defeating this soldier will yield the exact points for him to evolve his class. The mercenary frowns, not understanding why a weak kid chose to counterattack instead of just running away in despair. In an intense clash, the spear brutally collides with the purple sword, generating destructive sparks all over the room. Struggling with the impact, the invader realizes the kid's strength is absurd and admits the master didn't lie about him. Sweat runs down the veteran's face, and he falls into total panic, finding that level of power surreal for a beginner. Pressing with a brutal red aura, Su Hong throws it in his face that he has easily defeated high-level extras before. Releasing all his accumulated fury, the hero lets out a deafening shout while pushing the enemy's weapon back. With an explosion of physical strength, he drives the spear forward, breaking the defense and throwing the soldier into the air like trash. The veteran jumps very high, creating a giant ring of purple energy, and challenges the kid to try to withstand his Class B attack. Delivering the harsh strike from above, the mercenary yells furiously, releasing the crushing power of his flaming slash. The boy gathers an intense aura of lightning and warns that this power is far superior to the piercing finger, even though both attacks are of the same class. The strikes collide forcefully, scattering destructive sparks all over the camp room. The force of the impact shatters the floor and throws pieces of concrete everywhere. Pushed by the shockwave, the mercenary slides backward, trying not to fall. He is left completely confused, since attributes repelling each other is an absolute truth that all warriors know very well. Staring at the rookie, the attacker deduces that it is a fusion of thunder and fire, a technique he thought was only a legend. At that, the protagonist's eyes shine intensely, preparing his next aggressive move. Su Hong charges forward, launching a fierce attack with his spear, making the invader panic entirely. Releasing intense flames, the hero tears through the air, executing his feared flaming slash. The mercenary tries to dodge the fatal blow, but his defense instantly gives way under the weight of the attack. With a crushing impact, the rookie drives the spear in, creating a gigantic pillar of destructive energy. Taking the hit head-on, the soldier coughs in exhaustion, amazed by that completely ridiculous power level. The veteran's body is thrown with extreme force, breaking through the building's wall and falling outside. Standing in the middle of the destruction, the hero watches the system's screen confirm he gained the martial points for the victory. Analyzing his updated attributes, he celebrates that he finally got the exact amount to become a spiritual reader. Outside the dorms, the evaluation team and instructors quickly arrive at the explosion site. The Grandmaster assesses that Su-hong should already be defeated, revealing that he even prepared speeches to convince the boy to drop multiple training. Suddenly, a man's body falls from the hole in the wall, crashing onto the ground right in front of the group. The loud noise startles the instructors, who stare at the knocked-out guy raising dust on the asphalt. They immediately recognize the battered and bruised face of the veteran who had been sent for the surprise mission. Totally stunned by the scene, the old leader shouts the mercenary's name, unable to believe his defeat. The supervisor's jaw drops, deducing that the rookie managed to beat the elite soldier completely alone. Soon after, 3 more flashes explode in the neighboring buildings, throwing other invaders through the air. The henchmen crash down hard in the courtyard, completing the total failure of the night operation. The trio of veterans assigned to ambush the big stars of the camp also ends up crushed on the sidewalk. Walking out of the building, the brute tells the Grandmaster to send someone stronger next time, since this one wasn't even enough for a warm-up. However, the big guy quickly notices there are 4 bodies lying in the courtyard and finds the math of the situation strange. Floating in her bubble, the girl wonders who managed to win faster than them, thinking the opponent must be very weak. The instructor cuts her theory short and firmly states that soldier right there is by far the most dangerous of the entire group. Analyzing the crisis, the old man reflects that it's normal for prodigies to win, but a rookie humiliating a higher-level fighter that fast is madness. Intrigued by the mystery, the leader tries to guess if the boy used top-tier skills or some special physical constitution. Suddenly, a staff member comes running desperately across the courtyard, shouting that a huge problem has occurred. Keeping his calm, the veteran tells the man to breathe and coldly asks if any student ended up eliminated by mistake. The supervisor pants a denial and reveals that the hero defeated the mercenary using a fused guidance technique. Calmly, the Grandmaster recalls that the boy wanted to test the 7 elements and thinks it's normal that he managed to use something. But in a millisecond, the realization finally hits, and the old man's brain short-circuits. Completely losing his posture, the veteran grabs the staff member by the collar, demanding to know if he really fused fire and thunder. Frightened, the man swears he saw everything on the cameras and tells him to ask the knocked-out soldier if they think it's a lie. Lying on the sidewalk, the hurt mercenary mumbles, confirming that he took a double hit of fire and electricity. Shaking the poor guy, the old man yells that the only genius in history took 10 years to do that, while the rookie has been training for less than a month. He lets go of the staff member, shouting to the skies that the student is a true powerhouse and a legendary dragon of humanity. Trying to understand the outburst, the female instructor asks if a fusion like that is really strong enough to cancel out the huge level difference. Curious about the discovery, she questions why the association doesn't encourage this practice if the final result is so incredible. The leader explains that many people tried, but the extreme difficulty ends up breaking the fighter's body and locking their level forever. Amazed by the genius, he points out that the boy has all 7 affinities and imagines the apocalyptic power of fusing them all into a single strike. The old man pictures the hero crushing the greatest emperors of enemy races with a single, devastating, multicolored attack. One of the instructors kills the mood, saying the boss is exaggerating too much, since fusing 2 elements is nearly impossible. Believing the theory, the Grandmaster swallows hard, realizing that if the boy gets stuck on the 3rd element, humanity will lose an absolute genius. At that, the camera operator notes that the protagonist's physical strength crushed the soldier's almost 500 points of vitality. The woman agrees, stating that his raw damage increase far surpasses the famous barbarian god structure of the cocky big guy. Wasting no time, the old man orders a test fight tomorrow morning, putting the 3 greatest prodigies head-to-head against him. Overflowing with absolute confidence, the veteran swears he wants to see the sparks fly when this anomaly faces the camp's elite. Meanwhile, in the isolated room, the cold night wind blows straight through the huge hole open in the concrete wall. Ignoring the mess and the shattered pieces on the floor, the boy meditates deeply, focused on his own spiritual evolution. Determined to advance, he taps the panel screen and converts all the accumulated martial points directly into the mental attribute. A wave of pure energy surrounds the young man's body as he celebrates being about to awaken the coveted spiritual reader class. Closing his eyes, he feels a bizarre pressure dominating his mind while a whitish aura takes over the room. Projecting a giant hand of pure light, he describes the strange sensation as if he had gained a 3rd ghost arm. The system beeps, confirming the limit was broken, and the fighter relaxes, making the luminous arm disappear into the air. Very satisfied with his newly discovered strength, he focuses his gaze intently on the broken pieces of his own spear. Pushing his thoughts further, he makes the weapon levitate around the room, celebrating that he can now use the power of his mind, just like the camp's prodigy. Planning for the future, the hero promises himself he will steal both her mental technique and the big guy's offensive skill. The The next morning, the base's loudspeakers blare, demanding everyone gather in the courtyard in 1 minute or face losing valuable points. The warning makes the recruits panic, and they start running frantically down the dorm stairs. The crowd runs, complaining that they barely survived the intense training and the midnight ambush, finding that pace absolute madness. In a few seconds, the crowd of students lines up in the open field, waiting for the next orders from the strict instructors. Arriving very calmly and without rushing, the protagonist finishes putting on his jacket to face the new evaluation. A gray-haired officer praises the class's speed, pleased that no one was a single second late for roll call. With an ironic laugh, the man confesses he expected to see many of them too broken to get out of bed after last night's scare. Upset, a young man justifies his defeat, stating he only lost because the mercenary fought dirty without even letting him put his underwear on properly. The officer counters the weak excuse, asking if a real rogue would wait for him to dress nicely before taking him out. The classmates burst out laughing and don't let the embarrassment go, nicknaming the poor guy Underwear Bro, in front of everyone. Su-hong understands the harsh lesson, but reflects that suffering night attacks after an infernal day of hunting leaves anyone very frustrated. Understanding the general indignation, the instructor announces loudly that he will give them a second chance to prove their true worth. The officer details that the intensive test will measure all vital attributes and even the technical mastery of each genius in the military camp. The instructor warns that after the test there will be a real combat ranking, guaranteeing daily point rewards for the top 10 place students. The crowd immediately comments that the top 3 spots are already taken, but they get excited to try to secure at least the remaining spots in the top 10. Walking calmly through the courtyard, Su-hong reflects on the overall test and is quite curious to know what the grand prize for first place will be. Demanding immediate silence, the instructor orders all students to follow him straight to the camp's testing area. The huge group of students enters the spacious warehouse and positions themselves in front of the heavy-strength monitoring machines. Watching the crowd from afar, Grandmaster Kyun notices that the protagonist knows how to hide very well among the others without drawing any attention. Noticing the old man's gaze, Lin Sing thinks the veteran has his eye on him, but a classmate quickly shuts that down, telling him he must be mistaken. Confident in his own talent, the preppy kid is stubborn and swears to himself that he is the only person worthy of the camp leader's attention. At that, the instructor announces a last-minute surprise, promising that the first-place student will score a rank A technique of their choice. The crowd goes wild at the news, betting that the big guy Wang Tianchu and the other 2 geniuses will give it their all to win this incredible prize. The brute evaluates the reward, remembering that skills at that level are so rare that even his powerful family possesses very few. With plenty of confidence, the red-haired girl gets excited about the idea of being able to choose any high-level technique if she dominates the tournament. Meanwhile, Lin Sing plans to use the prize to turbocharge his luxury movement skill, wanting to prove that extreme speed is not useless. Hearing the valuable offer, the hero's eyes shine intensely, committing himself to giving his all to take home that free technique. The testing machinery activates in the center of the room, gathering a massive golden energy ready to measure the candidate's raw strength. The prodigy girl advances, tearing through the air, and fires her attack entirely focused on the measuring equipment. A colossal sword of golden energy sinks into the machine, generating a loud boom that shakes the entire floor of the room. The digital scoreboard flashes quickly and locks onto the mark of 5,942 power points. The students are stunned, noticing that her strength almost doubled in a short time, proving that spiritual readers are absurdly explosive. The protagonist watches everything dying of envy, impressed by the versatility of being able to levitate and create objects in the middle of combat. The glowing aura continues to pulse around the girl, showing off perfect mastery of the mental skill in front of everyone. Su-hong understands that this technique can materialize even wild beasts, but consumes an insane amount of mental power to maintain its physical form. Feeling a slight pressure in his own mind, he concludes that he doesn't have enough spiritual energy to copy that skill right now. Leaving the learning for later, the boy turns his attention to the arena right as the muscular big guy prepares for the test. The crowd cheers, calling the giant a true god of combat, betting all their chips on the raw strength of his overwhelming physique. Interested in the challenge, the hero wonders what the real power difference will be between this guy's barbarian body and his own extreme physique. Facing the machine, Wang Tiantuo tells everyone to pay close attention because that single punch will prove his absolute superiority. The brute fires a monstrous strike at the target, raising a strong shockwave that sweeps across the testing area. Utterly in disbelief, the students panic, seeing that a purely physical attack almost beat the score of an advanced skill. Evaluating the results on the screen, the Grandmaster nods, quite satisfied with the raw level of his best recruits. Thanking the leader for the praise, the brute guarantees the show isn't over yet and prepares to use his real combat technique. The hero focuses his excited gaze, knowing he is finally going to see his rival's Class A offensive skill in action. A pale, ghostly flame wraps around the giant's hand, gathering a terrifying amount of destructive energy. He lunges, tearing up the arena floor, and fires a strike wrapped in a scary spiritual fire. Recognizing the move right away, the veteran identifies the technique as the feared Bone Ghost Fire Punch. Su-hong remembers seeing that exact skill in the catalog and gets annoyed that it costs a fortune in contribution points. The massive attack collides with the machine, generating an incredible explosion that lights up the entire training facility. With the scoreboard marking over 7,000 points, the crowd is shocked, noticing that this strength is close to the standard of a mid-stage warrior. The Grandmaster congratulates the young man, stating that his family will finally have the high-level master they always dreamed of. Ending the subject, the old man points to the crowd, calling Su-hong to be the next to face the machine's challenge. The whole class feels sorry for the poor guy, thinking that going right after such monstrous displays will be the biggest embarrassment of his life. Ignoring the gossip, the protagonist stops in front of the equipment and confirms with the instructors that the first strike must use only physical strength. Assuming a firm stance, the boy spreads his legs and begins to channel all his intense strength into his arm muscles. He takes a deep breath with a long sigh, calming his mind and locking total focus straight onto the center of the armored target. In the blink of an eye, the fighter sinks his fist with intimidating force, ensuring that the grand prize of the test already belongs to him. The insane strength of the impact shatters the air in the room, throwing dust and debris backward with a completely absurd boom. The digital display blinks frantically and locks on the monstrous mark of 6,551 points. Stunned by the number, the evaluator with glasses drops his clipboard, admitting he severely underestimated this boy's level. A dead silence takes over the entire warehouse, with the students paralyzed, unable to believe what their own eyes are seeing. The yelling breaks out shortly after, with the crowd thinking the machine broke and declaring the rookie as the camp's new powerhouse. The elite trio breaks a cold sweat, feeling the raw pressure, acknowledging they were very arrogant and that his strength level seems to be that of a superior warrior. Not caring about the chaos around him, the hero calmly asks the Grandmaster if he can proceed using a special technique. Receiving confirmation from the leader, the boy spreads his feet, planting his base on the floor to ready his second and final strike on the target. The mental space kicks in, accelerating the training insanely and making his mastery of the skill skyrocket in a few seconds. Bathed in ghostly flames, the fighter celebrates that the fire punch suits him perfectly and is super easy to learn. The instructor approaches the Grandmaster, doubting the boy can get a high score since poor families rarely possess strong techniques. With a smirk, the old veteran bets otherwise, eager to see the ace up his sleeve that the prodigy is about to reveal now. Su-hong's eyes shine intensely while the system confirms the basic level mastery of the skill achieved with total success. The students go into absolute shock, seeing the same spectral flame in the rookie's hands and scream in confusion, wanting to know how he learned that. Excited about the power bubbling in his veins, the protagonist advances, promising to test the true damage of that advanced technique. The impact of the hit sinks the equipment's armor, generating a colossal pillar of blue fire that cuts through the entire warehouse. The windstorm created by the force of the punch drags the students backward, desperate to try to see the final score of this apocalyptic attack. The panel reveals a staggering 9,013 points, leaving the crowd yelling that this is already the level of a warrior at the highest stage of Class 2. Holding the boy's outdated data, the instructor calls the document useless trash, while the Grandmaster declares him a true powerhouse. The trio of geniuses swallows their pride, calculating that to have all that damage, the rookie must be hiding a secret vitality greater than 500. Right after, the whole class surrounds the scanning capsule, shouting in indignation and claiming that the health measurement equipment must be broken. Sitting calmly in the technological water of the capsule, the hero shows a real vitality of 137 points, breaking all possible logic. The crowd loses their minds entirely, questioning if a zero is missing on the screen, unable to accept that a physically weak fighter is generating such a massive impact. Totally glued to the scene, the Grandmaster stares at the prodigy's measurements with his eyes locked on the glowing screen without blinking. Putting an end to the chatter, the old man demands immediate silence and announces that the head-to-head matches for the combat rankings are about to start right there. The leader explains that the fights will be by direct challenge, guaranteeing the class a prize for the one left standing without anyone daring to challenge them. Showing a malicious and confident smile, Lin Sing raises his voice in the middle of the crowd, catching the veteran's attention. Without a drop of fear, the preppy kid steps in front of the protagonist and declares that he wants to trade blows with him in the arena. The guy in the suit blatantly states he will use his speed to dodge everything and defeat the hero simply through exhaustion, since his vitality is pathetic. Hearing the rich kid's cowardly plan, the Grandmaster leans back in his chair and lets out a laugh, rejecting the idea on the spot, shocking the whole team. Surprising everyone, the Grandmaster suggests the elite trio fight the boy all at the same time. The guy in the suit gets indignant, asking if the old man is underestimating them, while the brute jokes that he's only afraid of accidentally putting the rookie out of commission. Ignoring the fit, the veteran asks for the protagonist's opinion, who maintains absolute calm and says he has no objections. The giant questions if the kid really thinks he has the victory guaranteed. Angrily, Lin Sing calls him arrogant and assures them he can tire the hero out by himself. Wasting no time, the leader authorizes the start of the combat while the competitors take their positions in the spacious arena. The guy in the suit immediately lunges, tearing through the air at high speed, leaving his two teammates behind. Confident he plans to land a quick hit and retreat to ambush later, absolutely certain that the hero can keep up with his fast steps. However, the red-haired girl notices the terrifying threat and screams desperately, telling her ally to dodge immediately. Getting an incredible scare, the rich kid finds the rookie appearing out of nowhere right by his side. Su-hong simply says a cold goodbye and prepares a punch full of electrical energy. The fast attack hits the opponent dead on, giving him no chance to defend himself. With the intense impact, the preppy kid's body is thrown far away, wrapped in destructive lightning. He manages to land sliding on the floor and thanks the girl for the warning, alerting them that the rookie's speed is too dangerous. At that, the hero feels a strange aura locking his body and admits it's the first time he's dealing with this type of mental control. Evaluating the spiritual restriction, the boy quickly realizes the enemy group's cowardly strategy. Determined to break the formation, the protagonist advances with everything he has, focused on taking down the spiritual reader first. The girl goes into shock as she perfectly recognizes the luxury movement technique the rookie is using. The preppy kid also notices his own move being copied and deduces the hero has a double attribute, yelling for his partner to stop him fast. Taking the front line, the brute tells his ally to focus on the mental control while he handles the heavy lifting with brute strength. The giant gathers ghostly flames in his fist and fires his advanced attack at the target. To everyone's surprise, the hero invokes the exact same spectral fire technique, preparing for the clash. Taking advantage of the distraction, the girl raises her hand and casts a powerful spell, ordering the enemy to freeze in place. The green energy traps the protagonist's body, and he admits that this mental restriction is much more annoying than he imagined. Seeing the guard totally open, the rich kid appears from above, delivering an aggressive flying kick. Watching everything, the Grandmaster thinks he went too far with the challenge. He explains it's impossible to escape a spiritual reader without using mental power or absurd brute strength. The veteran calculates that the boy's physique is enough to break the magic, but gets a scare when he sees his expression of pure mockery. In the blink of an eye, the young man destroys the restriction and counters the simultaneous attacks of the giant and the guy in the suit, throwing them both far away. The loud impact clears the area as the hero lands firmly, showing off a destructive aura. Suffering the rebound of the broken magic, the girl coughs from exhaustion, totally in disbelief that he dispelled the control using only brute strength. Without giving his opponents time to breathe, Su-hong grabs the preppy kid's heel in mid-air. Using the rich kid's body like a sledgehammer, the fighter swings his opponent in the air with intimidating force. In the stands, the crowd goes crazy seeing him blocking heavy attacks and breaking magic with just muscle, calling the boy a human beast. With a rough movement, the hero throws the guy in the suit to the side without a drop of mercy. Immediately, he intercepts the giant's punch, firmly grabbing his wrist. The brute panics as he is lifted off the ground as if he weighed nothing, cursing desperately as he is thrown far away. Maintaining a cold expression, the protagonist lands, releasing a crushing pressure on the court. In a relentless attack, he drives the bodies of the preppy kid and the giant straight into the concrete floor, creating a colossal boom. The hit is so intense that the big guy gets stuck in the cracked rocks, muttering in pain. The guy in the suit also coughs from exhaustion, totally wrecked in the middle of the crater that formed. Watching the total defeat, the entire crowd loses the color in their faces, trembling with pure terror. The students stare at the marks of destruction, thinking the display of brute force is too cruel for training. A guy with glasses almost falls backward, hugging his classmate, completely traumatized by the scene. Not caring about the audience, the hero drags the rich kid's unconscious body by the leg as he walks toward his last opponent. The boy's eyes shine with a predatory intensity, focusing exclusively on the spiritual reader. Totally terrified, the girl backs away, raising her hands, and begs him not to get any closer, declaring her immediate surrender. The audience goes into shock, confirming the absurd victory. They can hardly believe the strongest trio fell to a single guy and declare him a literal powerhouse. Cutting through the chatter, the Grandmaster asks out loud if anyone else has the courage to challenge the rookie for the lead. The injured competitors give up on the spot, fearing they will get an even worse lesson, concluding that only an idiot would push their luck now. With that, the veteran declares Su-hong the grand champion and tells the rest of the class to continue competing for the remaining spots with the instructor. The leader calls the undefeated number one to accompany him and get his well-deserved reward at the martial arts pavilion. The boy gets very excited just thinking about getting his hands on another advanced class technique for free. Walking through the quiet courtyard, the old man confesses he has kept an eye on him since day one and asks why he hides his own strength so much. Staying humble, the young man explains he has no rich family to protect him, and drawing attention too early would just make him an easy target. The Grandmaster laughs out loud, praising the boy's intelligence, and reveals he set up this combat tournament just to guarantee resources for him. Teaching him how the world works, the old man warns that from now on he will watch his back against any trouble, as long as he focuses on getting stronger. Soon the duo enters the traditional martial arts pavilion, where the veteran orders the attendant to bring the list of special techniques immediately. The leader advises the boy to analyze the catalog very calmly. Trusting the master's wisdom, the rookie asks for a direct suggestion on what to choose. Curious, the old man asks what skills he already masters, and the young man lists all the advanced attacks of fire, electricity, wind, and the fast steps. The realization hits the Grandmaster hard, as he instantly realizes the boy stole those skills just by watching the rich kid use them a single time. Breaking a cold sweat over the bizarre discovery, the veteran looks at the student out of the corner of his eye, silently confirming that he adopted a truly absurd monster. The receptionist hands over the thick book thoughtfully, very intrigued to know who this rookie is getting VIP treatment from the supreme leader. The veteran points to the book, suggesting that since he has attacks and dodges, the ideal choice now is a control skill called Flame Cage. He explains that regular attacks just stick energy to the body, but control magic requires manifesting power in the environment, something almost no one knows how to do right. Wanting to make the choice easier, the Grandmaster says he knows this move and will do a quick, practical demonstration right there in the room. Showing total satisfaction, the protagonist thanks the old man for his goodwill without revealing his true intentions. The veteran's hand shines with a very strong orange energy as he conjures flames in the air. A complex fire cage forms, and the old man tells the boy not to underestimate the move just because it doesn't cause immediate raw damage. The leader gestures, explaining that the perfect strategy is to trap the enemy with no chance of escape before delivering the final attack. The glowing cage flies across the room, exploding in a wave of heat, proving this tactic guarantees taking down the target in the blink of an eye. However, the old man sighs, lamenting that maintaining the trap and attacking at the same time is impossible for the boy now, since he himself only managed to do that at a very high level. Faking disappointment, the hero waves his hands, turning down the technique, and says if it's that hard, he'd rather choose something else. The Grandmaster finds the quick refusal strange, but reflects with relief that the boy knows how to listen to advice instead of being a stubborn and arrogant genius. Very satisfied with his trick, the young man celebrates having stolen the entire skill through the system, just by looking, and asks the master to look for the next option. Flipping through the old pages, the veteran discards the other styles, and concludes that the only thing missing from the kid's arsenal is good defense. He finally points to the perfect skill called Thick Earth Armor, a technique that creates an almost indestructible spiritual protection on the body. Excited about the idea, the boy agrees to follow the advice, calculating that his physical strength, combined with the defense, will be incredible. Holding the technique book, the veteran asks what the student's special physique is, who calmly answers that it's the Overlord's body. The old man goes into shock, remembering that this is the strongest physique of all. Meanwhile, the hero thinks inventing this might earn him several free techniques. But the Grandmaster soon comments he never heard of that name before. Out of options, the young man confesses he made up the title on the spot. Regaining his composure, Kyun evaluates that the boy's strength is terrifying for having blocked the giant easily, something unheard of for a beginner. Suddenly, the camp leader begins to stammer, seeming to have noticed an absurdly important detail. At that, his phone rings and the old man answers it in annoyance, saying he is busy, but the female employee reports something scary about the fight's record. Hanging up the device, Kyun asks if the rookie fought the elite using a weighted vest. The hero confirms, explaining he didn't want to lose the points. The veteran's heart almost leaps out of his chest as he tries to calm down, repeating to himself that the boy is a monster beyond normal logic. Resorting to common sense, the master tells him to forget the points and take the equipment off immediately, promising several future rewards. The fighter takes off his jacket and the vest, warning that the item is a bit heavy. The pavilion manager quickly offers to take the piece to the warehouse. With the greatest calmness, the hero hands the dark equipment over to the woman. As soon as the weight is transferred, the manager collapses to the floor, making the piece crack the wooden tiles with a violent boom. Crushed on the floor, the woman desperately asks how many kilograms it is. Suhong answers casually that it's just 5 tons. Sweating coldly at the absurdity, the old man hugs the boy, calling him a little monster, and announces he has one more Class A technique to give him. Curious about the gift, the protagonist immediately asks what style this new skill is. The master explains that it's the Thunder Spear technique, one of the most powerful and destructive options among advanced attacks. Kin remembers that a rival from another city uses a spear, suggesting the boy challenge his student to steal the technique. The young man asks if that's right. Annoyed, the old man justifies that the rival mocked his camp, so he plans to pay him back tomorrow morning. The boy agrees with the plan right away. Later, night falls peacefully, illuminating the windows of the modern dormitory building. Entering his own room, the hero is satisfied to notice that the cleaning crew tidied up all the mess from the previous fight. The system confirms the acquisition of the 2 new skills. Focused, he sits on the floor determined to master the basic level of both before dawn. The next morning in a luxurious office, Grandmaster Jiang receives a call from Chun telling him to prepare the spear technique for a challenge. With a lot of attitude, Jiang tells his colleague to drop the plan, bragging that his camp forged a level 2 wood attribute genius. The veteran keeps showing off, revealing that his student learned an absurd control magic in just 2 days of training. In the testing area, the green-haired prodigy gathers an intense aura, preparing his move. He invokes the wooden prison, conjuring gigantic roots that crush a metal chair in the arena. Soon after, the green branches dissolve in the air, turning into glowing particles. The young man complains in frustration that he failed again. Watching the training, Master Jiang warns that control spells are hard and asks for patience. Overflowing with pure arrogance, the prodigy Lin Chunfeng swears that in just a month he will manage to reach the basic perfection of the strike. Scoffing on the phone, Jiang points out that Kyun took months to learn that and declares that his prodigy cannot be challenged by any weakling. Old Kin tries to reply furiously on the other end of the line, but the rival simply hangs up on his face. Turning to his student, Jiang asks him not to defeat the challenger too quickly and fake a balanced fight so as not to humiliate the guest. Conjuring claws of green energy, the arrogant young man guarantees the master can fully trust his acting skills. On the afternoon of the next day, the sun shines on the huge isolated facilities of the rival city's camp. The loud noise of the propellers breaks the silence of the place as the helicopter lands smoothly on the base. Stepping off the aircraft, the protagonist looks at the flying dust and comments he didn't expect his first flight to be so tense. The duo of guests walks calmly across the dirt courtyard, facing the reception team. Walking with plenty of mockery, Master Jiang approaches demanding to see what kind of genius his old rival brought for the match. With the greatest calm in the world, Chun introduces the hero, pointing out that he uses a spear and is only in the initial stage of Class 1. Jiang bursts into a loud laugh, asking if his colleague has gone senile for treating a low-level beginner like a great treasure. The green-haired prodigy concludes that the level difference guarantees an instant victory, thinking it will be impossible to pretend the fight is hard. Ignoring the mockery, veteran Kyun tells them to start the fight right away because he plans to go home soon for dinner. The entire group moves to a huge open-air combat arena where students usually train hard. In the stands, the local recruits gossip anxiously, hoping the outsider challenger isn't a complete failure. In the center of the courtyard, the local leader asks for everyone's attention to introduce the famous visiting grandmaster. Pointing to the side, he introduces the boy as the great challenger while the hero waves friendly. Frowning on purpose, Jiang makes a point of emphasizing out loud that the rookie is just starting level 1. The entire audience bursts into laughter, asserting that their idol will crush the boy with one hand and mocking the outsider's courage. Sweating coldly, the green-haired prodigy racks his brain, trying to come up with a plan to fight poorly on purpose without looking too fake. Confident in his own student, the local master promises to teach the technique if the boy wins. Kun pretends to be embarrassed by the situation. Jiang pats the hero on the shoulder, encouraging him to do his best in the arena. The young man just politely thanks him for the opportunity. Patting his rival on the back, Old Kin calls his colleague a nice guy, while Jiang totally doubts a beginner can win. Without further delay, the two opponents walk to the center of the huge stone court, catching the audience's attention. The local prodigy draws his sharp sword, telling the rookie not to worry because he will control his own strength. He adopts a relaxed stance with his weapon, waiting for the challenger to get ready for the exchange. Totally tense about the theater, Lin thinks about the huge risk of ending up eliminating the weak opponent with a single accidental strike. Noticing the boy is unarmed, the green-haired young man questions why he isn't using the spear he brought on the trip. Maintaining absolute tranquility, the protagonist raises his fists and announces he doesn't need to use the weapon for now. In reality, he reflects that his skill with the spear is much weaker than his punches, so using the weapon would be a huge disadvantage. Misinterpreting the calm attitude, the rich kid flashes a maniacal smile, calling the rookie a very cocky kid. He lunges aggressively, cutting across the arena, claiming he wants to see where so much arrogance comes from. Closing the distance in the blink of an eye, the swordsman focuses on the target, ready for the first clash. The prodigy sinks the blade into the ground, releasing a massive green shockwave across the scenery. Using his fast wind steps, the hero slides backward, dodging the lethal attack without the slightest difficulty. The young man goes into shock, quickly recognizing opponent's advanced movement skill. Regaining his composure, the swordsman flashes a cunning smile, finding the surprise very interesting. Extending his hand forward, Lin decrees that fast dodges are completely useless against his magic. He clenches his fist with great force, releasing pure energy as he invokes the wooden prison spell. Thick roots burst from the ground surrounding the boy, who immediately realizes it's a martial control technique. The protagonist understands that the rival is truly a prodigy for mastering this, but decides to use his brute strength to shatter the spell. Bathed in intense lightning, the rookie simply kicks the roots, making the trap shatter instantly. Completely confused, the hero is left not understanding anything, thinking it's very bizarre for advanced magic to break so easily like that. Taking advantage of the distraction, Lin flies in with his sword raised and shouts that trapping the enemy for 1 second is already more than enough. Maintaining a sharp gaze, Suhong turns his face, facing the fatal charge with absolute coldness and precision. With his fist covered in aggressive wind energy, Suhong prepares his counterattack. The protagonist slides through the air with extreme agility, dodging the root magic with ease. Lin Chunfeng is terrified to notice that the rookie's punch is too fast and will hit him first. Without a second thought, the prodigy resorts to his advanced evasion technique, trying to escape. At that, the hero advances, tearing through the air like a rocket, leaving a trail of destruction on the ground. The charge is so intense that the wind creates a shockwave across the camp's courtyard. Pressured by the chase, the rich kid tries to maintain his posture, impressed by his opponent's brutal strength. Totally bored by his enemy's useless escape, the rookie evaluates that this game is already getting ridiculous. In the stands, the crowd doesn't understand how a mere beginner's strength can break a rank 2 defense. Laughing at the situation, Master Jiang throws it in Chun's face that pure brute strength will never defeat his special student. However, ignoring the audience, the protagonist locks the sole of his sneaker firmly against the arena floor. Propelling his own body, he launches into a jump so forceful that it shatters the stone floor. The impact of the launch generates a deafening boom, kicking up a lot of dust in the scenery. A dark trail is left behind, leaving the students speechless at that marriage of speed. Desperate at the fast approach, the prodigy understands that the hero also possesses an advanced movement technique. Dust rises while the frantic charge continues to sweep across the battlefield. The protagonist suggests his rival surrender, acknowledging that pushing a beginner this far already proves his worth a lot. Confused by the sudden pause, Lin is left not understanding anything as he sees his opponent calmly reach out his hand. He goes into absolute panic when the rookie clenches his fist, invoking a concentrated storm of flames. In the blink of an eye, a massive fire trap appears in the center of the court, blocking any escape route. Completely trapped, the rich kid gets a scare finding himself caught in an advanced control magic. Despite the shock, he deduces that the technique will soon fade on its own, since a beginner doesn't have the stamina to keep it up. Seeing the scene, Grandmaster Kyun is absolutely amazed that his student mastered the cage at such a low level. Not understanding his colleague's reaction, Jiang asks why he is so surprised, since Kyun was the one who taught the magic. Disguising his surprise, the veteran hears another instructor comment that mastering 2 attributes isn't even that bizarre. However, the leader breaks a cold sweat, wondering why the flame prison hasn't collapsed yet in the courtyard. The entire arena watches the rookie generate a white electrical spark while keeping the trap burning effortlessly. Lin falls into pure terror at the bizarre possibility of his enemy being able to trap and attack at the same time. Confirming his rival's nightmare, Su-hong says he guessed right and prepares his offensive. The devastating strike is fired straight against the fire protection, aiming to pulverize the prisoner inside. Desperate to survive, the prodigy conjures thick roots, trying to create an emergency shield. But the green barrier is completely shattered by the pure brute force of the enemy attack. Using his sword to absorb the damage, Lin is dragged backward, cursing the crushing power of that blow. Taking advantage of the totally open guard, the protagonist advances, focused on crushing his opponent without mercy. A direct punch hits the rich kid's face hard, sending him flying. The green-haired boy loses his balance, thrown far away by the brutality of the impact. With his clothes torn, he manages to stand up in the middle of the scorching storm in the arena. Immediately, a healing green aura begins to close the open wounds on his battered body. Displaying arrogance, the prodigy demands that the hero not underestimate the spiritual regeneration of a wood body. Facing the scene with great boredom, the rookie calmly admits that just one punch won't solve the problem. With his fists bathed in aggressive flames, he warns that the simple solution is to hit a lot more. The fighter fires a mind-blowing barrage of strikes, ensuring that this miraculous healing won't be able to handle the pressure. Exhausted under the fast attacks, Lin is confident that a beginner's endurance will never surpass his energy. He challenges the hero, wanting to see who will give in first in this extreme test of survival inside the fire. Evaluating that his internal energy is running out, Su-hong interrupts the sequence, backing away to get some distance. The flaming trap dissolves in the air, freeing the exhausted opponent from that scorching prison. Giving a hysterical laugh, the prodigy celebrates the end of the technique and swears he will end the rookie's run. But the joy doesn't last long when he panics, feeling an absurdly heavy pressure coming from the enemy. Covered by huge golden lightning, Su-hong confesses that he didn't want to resort to an attack that burns so much energy. Trembling with absolute dread, the rich kid falls into despair over a beginner managing to generate such a monstrous force. Knowing the fatal danger, he sinks his hands into the ground, screaming that he can't let the hero get close at all. In a pathetic attempt to save himself, Lin conjures gigantic wooden barriers desperately. Cutting through the defenses as if they were paper, the protagonist shatters the green shields with an unstoppable charge. The massive electric hit connects with the target with terrifying violence, piercing through any remaining defense. A colossal pillar of lightning swallows the prodigy, generating an apocalyptic explosion right in the center of the stone court. Lin's totally knocked out body is thrown through the air like a ragdoll broken by the impact. Landing with extreme style, the winner stands unharmed in the middle of the heavy smoke and the wreckage of the battle. A dead silence takes over the entire military base, highlighting the complete humiliation of the home team. The audience is in disbelief that an initial stage student achieved the absurd damage of a rank S technique. Completely indignant at the embarrassment, Master Jiang yells, demanding to know what kind of freak his rival brought there. Overflowing with full satisfaction, Qin throws it in his rival's face that the boy masters attribute fusion perfectly. Drinking his tea calmly, the old man provokes him by saying his student took only a month to learn this brutal trick. He continues to brag by revealing that the hero trains 7 attributes simultaneously while always maintaining maximum affinity. Faking false regret, the veteran chuckles, saying he ended up saying too much of what he shouldn't have. Master Jiang is paralyzed with horror, trying to process the level of that completely unreal and unfair talent. Taking advantage of his colleague's shock, Kyun collects the bet immediately, demanding the spear and the electric palm as a bonus. The scene quickly cuts to a huge, ultra-modern, and highly isolated training dome. Inside, Su-hong waits patiently for the defeated Master's new instructions in the circular arena. Evaluating the boy closely, the veteran silently admits he has never run into such a huge anomaly in his entire life. Wielding the heavy metal shaft, the man introduces his legendary heaven-breaking divine spear technique. Bathed in strong lightning, he explains that the skill has 9 movements divided into 3 forms of destruction. The master states he would only teach this to level 4 fighters, but guarantees the hero's talent will make everything easier. Assuming a perfect combat stance, he tells the kid to pay close attention to the first attack of the sequence. In a fast spin, the veteran fires the first form, generating a colossal wall of pure blue energy across the court. Without pausing to breathe, Jiang executes the second technique, landing an even more violent and thundering impact. The demonstration continues with a massive wave of pure electrical energy, flooding the entire training environment. Holding his weapon tight, Su-hong feels like just a small boat in a storm, and that any drop of lightning could flip him over. Master Jiang doesn't lose rhythm and advances, landing the third form of his destructive style. Jumping very high, the veteran announces the heaven-destroying strike and brings the spear down with brutal intensity. The impact creates a gigantic tornado of thunder, tearing through the whole room with overwhelming power. Observing the chaos, the rookie realizes the leader held back a lot of strength on the last attack so he wouldn't bring the building down. Even feeling like an ant in the face of this strength, he fully trusts that in the future he will also have the same combat power. The dust finally settles, revealing the two warriors in the middle of the modern simulation arena. Handing over a device, the veteran explains that the technique's instructions are on it and makes himself available for questions. The boy thanks him for his help from the bottom of his heart, but the master cuts the ceremony short, reminding him that a bet must be fulfilled without favors. Keeping his word, Jiang promises to teach the lightning palm skill as soon as the young man masters the first form of the spear. The protagonist's eyes shine knowing that the punch is even stronger, and he decides to focus entirely on learning the weapon fast. Announcing he has business to settle with Grandmaster Chun, the instructor says goodbye, promising to come back later to check on the training. A whole hour passes while the sun beats down on the huge glass dome of the isolated training center. Opening the door, Jiang casually asks if the boy has gotten the hang of it, assuring him he doesn't need to rush since it takes months. Suddenly, an intense golden flash explodes right in the middle of the court, startling the newly arrived veteran. The hero trains frantically surrounded by aggressive lightning, executing the technique perfectly with his spear. He turns to the master, confessing that the style is very difficult, and that for now he has only managed to get the basics down. Overflowing with confidence, the rookie shamelessly asks to learn the lightning palm right away. Master Jiang is paralyzed, breaking a cold sweat, totally amazed and wondering if that bizarre talent is real. Outside, the late afternoon softly illuminates the modern facilities of the military base. Still inside the arena, the veteran remains frozen in place, trying to process the absurd shock. Grandmaster Kyun enters the place asking why his colleague is zoning out instead of teaching the promised technique. Demanding explanations, Chun accuses his rival of holding back, since without guidance the boy could never learn the move. Stammering nervously, Jiang points to the court, muttering that the boy has possibly already learned it all by himself. Bathed in pure electricity, Su-hong excitedly confirms that he finally mastered the new advanced rank skill. The two leaders stare at the kid in awe, with Kyun admitting he tried to prepare himself, but didn't expect such speed. Remembering he was called a genius for taking 3 months to do that, the old man realizes the boy's potential has no limits. Changing the subject to hide the shock, Kyun invites his colleague for a drink and announces they already set up a temporary room for the boy. The dark night takes over the camp, covering the large dormitory pavilion with absolute silence. Sitting on the hard mattress, Su-hong calculates that defeating the elite trio yielded good martial points for his system. Analyzing the glowing interface, he notices that his vital power is very low, and he also needs to level up all other attributes. Focused on strategy, the hero understands that level is the foundation of everything and decides to prioritize vital energy first. The young man sighs in frustration, seeing that the points aren't enough, lamenting that no one else has the courage to challenge him to duels. Looking at the moon through the bedroom window, he curses old Kin, thinking the master should have set up more matches. Meanwhile, in the dining area, Jiang complains indignantly that the old man tricked him, stealing 2 elite techniques at once. The commotion is interrupted by an officer opening the door, relieved to have finally found the 2 leaders. She hurriedly reports that the night training invasion is just awaiting the final order to start. Kyun spits out his drink in absolute shock, remembering at that very moment that his prodigy is sleeping in those dorms. Desperate about the blunder, Jiang orders to cancel the operation urgently, but the instructor informs him that the attack has already begun. On the base's roofs, a masked mercenary asks leader Bu Jinglong why such a strong martial artist is there. The soldier deduces that his presence is only to beat up a boy with a spiritual body on Master Jiang's orders. Joining the conversation, another recruit mocks Jinglong, reminding him that he took a beating from a rookie in a similar ambush. The leader justifies that he underestimated his opponent that time, and guarantees he will never make the same mistake again. Taking the front line, Jinglong puts on his mask and orders the entire squad to attack without mercy. The group of masked attackers jumps through the shadows, tearing through the night wind towards the dorms. In one of the hallways, a soldier tells the green-haired prodigy to rest while he finishes the easy job. Meanwhile, Jinglong invades the protagonist's room, swearing to teach the arrogant rookie a severe lesson. The veteran lunges, readying a fist wrapped in yellow energy, aiming to crush the boy in the first strike. Reacting at the same speed, Su-hong clashes his electric attack, creating a bright explosion that consumes the room. The mercenary is startled by the absurd resistance, feeling the crushing weight of the enemy's defense. Sliding backward from the force of the impact, the invader curses in confusion, not understanding where such power is coming from. The shockwave throws the two fighters straight into the hallway, right in front of the other mercenary and the green-haired boy. Seeing Su-hong's massive strength, the other invader suggests the local prodigy help defeat the target together. But Lin Chunfeng doesn't waste time and reaches out his hands, quickly invoking his wooden prison in the hallway. Thick roots burst from the floor, swallowing the second mercenary in a green, suffocating trap. Taking advantage of the chaos, the protagonist dashes like lightning, dodging the magic with his maximum speed. In an aggressive leap, the hero sinks a direct punch, tearing through the air against the ambush leader. The hit connects perfectly, causing the veteran's body to violently crash into the cracked floor. The mercenary tries to get up in a cold sweat and realizes in terror that the rookie is protected by a tough earth armor. Covered in purple energy, Su-hong advances relentlessly while Jinglong questions where this rank 2 powerhouse came from. In a panic, the soldier turns his back and tries to escape, running desperately down the dark hallway. But the fighter intercepts him the next second, driving a brutal knee straight into the enemy's stomach. The veteran coughs, completely losing his strength and collapsing knocked out on the cold floor. Across the hallway, the second mercenary also goes flying, knocked out by Lin Chunfeng's crushing roots. To finish the fight, the hero steps firmly, breaking the ground in an explosion of pure, intimidating yellow strength. Hiding behind the breeze, the green-haired prodigy swallows hard, totally terrified of the massive mess. Several martial points begin to pop up on the panel, while Su-hong looks at the bodies scattered across the destroyed base. Analyzing the system screen, he smiles excitedly for having scored more than 2,000 points, confirming he got rich in a single night. The next morning, the students appear totally exhausted and battered in the middle of the training courtyard. Pointing to the damage, Master Jiang demands that Qin take the blame for the destruction his prodigy student caused at the base. Qin raises his leg, blocking his rival's attack, and fires back, telling him to stop pretending he didn't destroy things too. Shifting focus, the old veteran asks if the boy still needs to learn metal, wood, and water element attacks. With a cunning smile, Qin suggests visiting old friends, making it clear he intends to make more dirty bets. Over the next 10 days, the duo visits several camps, pulling the same scam and leaving a trail of defeated masters along the way. Calmness reigns in the dorm of Su-hong's training camp under the daylight. Inside, the boy meditates intensely while mastering the initial techniques of metal, wood, and water. He breathes a sigh of relief for finally having reached the basic level in these 3 rank of martial arts. Evaluating his system, the hero notes the large amount of points and decides it's the perfect time to increase his vital energy. Immediately, a red aura surrounds the fighter's body as his vitality numbers start to climb. The pressure increases absurdly, leaving the protagonist panting with the intensity of this evolution process. Reaching the necessary mark, he celebrates that he only needs a little more to break through and become a rank 2 martial artist. However, the rookie hesitates, looking at the remaining 100 points, unsure whether to improve his spiritual status or his overlord physique. Curious about the result, he decides to take a chance and strengthen his maximum body structure. The system quickly confirms the expenditure of the 100 martial points all at once. The evolution hits the mark of the spiritual body, but the percentage goes up very little. The boy is indignant to see that this whole amount yielded only a slight increase, finding this physique too hard to level up. Knowing he needs more resources, he grabs his jacket, announcing he is going to the beast room to farm more points. In the hallway, he runs into Grandmaster Qun and is surprised by the leader's unexpected visit. The old man asks if the student still needs a healing technique, while the scene focuses on the freezing Hangzhou camp. At the new location, Grandmaster Wang Qingshan announces that the mountain training requires surviving for 7 days without supplies. The veteran emphasizes that points only come from taking down beasts of the same rank, praising the local geniuses as he orders the march. Commanded by the strict order, the students advance quickly across the dark rocks of the freezing mountain. Observing the scene, Qun fires back at the local master, reminding him that if Su-hong wins the bet, Wang will have to teach the healing skill. The host accepts the deal, showing confidence that the rookie will never manage to defeat all his rank 2 students. Wang even suggests not letting the rookies see the danger now, since terrorists from the celestial race are prowling the area. With no pity for the kids, old Qin questions how they will get strong if they don't face extreme difficulties in the brutal war. The Hangzhou leader just sighs, acknowledging the weight and coldness of that absolute truth in the martial world. Already deep in the hostile woods, Su-hong advances, firing his spear and promising to return alive as the Grandmaster asks. He unleashes a devastating golden slash, sweeping through the air and shattering everything around him in the blink of an eye. The violent energy sinks into the carcass of a monster, defeating the wild beast cleanly and brutally. Without letting up, the hero conjures a stranglehold of vines, trapping a huge snake in the trees to finish it off. Chaining the attacks, he summons a crushing water dragon that runs over a giant bear, kicking up snow and stone. Walking through a dark cave, the boy reflects on the absurd power of these new techniques, but notices a serious problem. Continuous use consumes a lot of energy, but he sits on the ground, satisfied that he has already farmed enough points to level up. Outside, a mysterious man in a red jacket walks suspiciously through the night forest. The invader stops suddenly, feeling a strange presence hovering in the mountain's dense air. He finds the remains of a defeated beast, surprised that someone is hunting so deep in dangerous territory. The man shouts, demanding the intruder hiding in the cave surrender immediately to have a painless end. With a sadistic look illuminated by a bizarre energy, the villain threatens to take him out if he tries to resist. He evaluates the fallen black tiger's body, deducing that the beast's attacker must have the strength of a rank 2 or 3 martial artist. Busy deep in the cave, Su-hong judges the enemy's tone of voice and concludes this is not someone trustworthy. The boy hesitates, not knowing if he can defeat a rank 4 right now, even having just broken through his own level. Determined not to become prey, he lunges like lightning covered in blue energy, planning to escape that tight spot quickly. The villain notices the explosive movement coming from inside and prepares for the fatal strike. With an evil smile, the invader clenches his flaming fist, celebrating that the rat finally showed its face. But Su-hong surprises him by breaking the ground with a fast and sharp-winged attack. The enemy slides backward to dodge the impact, shocked to realize the boy is only a rank 2 in the initial stage. The man runs to attack, mockingly confessing that he loves crushing lucky geniuses more than anything. However, the villain stops his steps suddenly, totally confused by his supposed victim's unexpected reaction. Stopping in the snow, Su-hong holds his spear and asks in a sharp tone why the scumbag stopped running. The boy evaluates the strength revealed by the enemy and states that he is only a rank 3, admitting he overestimated him at first. Noticing the bizarre tattoo on the rival's neck, the protagonist identifies the symbol of the demonic cult of various races. He remembers that these terrorists despise humanity and sacrifice innocent people in exchange for monstrous rewards. Overflowing with pure hatred and bathed in an intense aura, the hero swears that trash like this enemy deserves only to fall. The cultist draws his own flaming blade, finding the audacity funny, and tells the kid to push his luck. Delivering a heavy vertical strike, the invader fires the Heaven Sun Slash, sweeping the scenery with dense flames. Not underestimating the combat, Su-hong advances, determined to use all his strength right away in his first fight against a rank 3. The boy channels a massive golden energy, spinning the spear to invoke his overwhelming rank A technique. The storm of lightning and flames swallows the enemy's move, destroying the cultist's charge with a crushing impact. The villain loses the color in his face, completely in disbelief, seeing his own attack dispelled as if it were nothing. Indignant, he wonders how he is losing ground, being a whole level higher than his opponent. Overcome with fury, the man lunges, cutting the air, and curses the kid, asserting he is just asking to perish. At that, a violent flash blinds the cultist, stopping his charge suddenly in the middle of the snow. The hero slides majestically, planting his feet firmly while the flashing wall blocks any advance from the enemy. The protagonist keeps his cold gaze, fully releasing the destructive power of his new martial form against the cornered target. The terrifying energy surrounds the cultist, who tries to step back, admitting in terror that this force is much greater than his own technique. Suddenly, thick vines burst from the snow, trapping the invader's leg in a firm and relentless hold. Desperate, the man yells upon recognizing wood control after the opponent had already used water and thunder. With no escape, he is completely swallowed by the thunderous impact of the electric storm that devours the mountain. The dust finally settles, revealing the giant crater of shattered ice left by the absurd hit. Walking calmly through the trail of destruction, Su-hong tries to understand if the enemy dodged using some bizarre trick. Nearby pieces of earth magically gather, reconstructing the body of the severely injured cultist. The villain gets up panting, confessing that he clashed head-on with an absolute monster instead of a normal human genius. With his chest glowing an intense red, he glares at the rookie, swearing there is nowhere left to run. A grotesque transformation takes over the enemy's body, sprouting rigid scales and a purely demonic aura. The hero prepares for the worst, thinking this insane mutation is crazy and concluding that the people in this cult have lost their minds. The newly formed monster sinks its claws into the ground with blind fury, wanting to tear the boy apart right there. The two opponents clash their fists brutally, shaking the ice cave under the crushing impact of the collision. Flying backward, the bad guy warns that if the sacrifice ritual is completed, he will become a relentless and fatal celestial being. Wasting no time, Su-hong raises his hand and quickly conjures the flame cage magic, leaving the monster completely shocked. The boy concentrates fire into his fist with an expression of pure determination to finish the enemy off. The columns of fire explode from the ground and trap the bizarre creature in a scorching circle with no escape route. Taking advantage of the trap, the hero advances with everything he has and fires the piercing spear's destruction, tearing through the opponent's defense. The golden weapon covered in electricity pierces the cultist's body with a devastating impact. A brutal explosion of energy sweeps through the entire cave, lighting up the place with an intense light. With his body crumbling bit by bit, the villain pants in terror and calls the boy a monster. Right after, the creature's head shatters completely, turning to nothing but ashes on the floor. Analyzing the system, the rookie is impressed to see that the reward for taking down a cultist is gigantic compared to beasts. He quickly remembers the enemy mentioned a sacrifice and suspects the gang must have already captured humans. Because of the imminent danger, the boy decides he needs to warn the Grandmaster as fast as possible. Meanwhile, in the isolated Hangzhou training camp, the leaders are already discussing the situation. Grandmaster Wang reveals that Su-hong found the demonic cult and they are preparing a bizarre ritual using hostages. Old Wang asks if Grandmaster Kyun is really just going to sit drinking tea instead of rushing to save his special student. Totally relaxed, veteran Kyun takes a sip and announces that the boy has already crushed the enemy, telling his colleague to believe whatever he wants. 3 full days pass, showing the destroyed remains of another monster scattered across the forest floor. Leaning against a tree, the protagonist sighs in frustration, complaining that he has already taken down many beasts, but no other cultist has appeared. The panel reveals he has accumulated a little over 800 points, a much smaller profit than defeating terrorists would yield. Suddenly, a danger alert pops up in the system, making the boy turn all his attention to the dark trees. Walking through the shadows, a cult woman appears, praising the handsome rookie's good perception for noticing her. The invader laments that the circumstances are bad, preparing a freezing magic, and warning that he will now have to face defeat. In a quick motion, the cultist fires a fast burst of sharp stakes at the hero. Sliding with extreme ease, the young fighter dodges the lethal attack without the slightest effort. Brimming with pure excitement, the boy thinks it's excellent that his enemies are showing up for free to give him points. The protagonist raises his hand and quickly invokes the water dragon technique with an intimidating aura. A massive torrent of pure aquatic energy rushes to swallow the woman in the middle of the forest. Desperate at the imminent impact, the cultist uses her red whip to try to tear the attack apart in mid-air. But Su-hong appears stealthily behind her back, whispering in her ear that she arrived at the perfect time to reveal the cult's base. The hero gives a harsh pull with his weapon, dragging the enemy's body backward without any mercy. Being thrown into the air, the woman gets desperate, unable to understand what kind of monstrous strength this is. Still in the air, the protagonist charges ghostly flames and invokes the feared fire punch against the target. The brutal strike hits the ground, crushing the cultist with absurd violence and kicking up a lot of dust. With the tip of the spear held against the fallen enemy's neck, he demands to know immediately where the cult's main base is located. Coughing from exhaustion, the woman begs for her own safety and reveals that the camp is 10 kilometers north of there. Pressing the weapon, the boy continues the interrogation, asking how many martial artists came on the mission. Terrified, she confesses that there are 3 rank 3 fighters and a dozen rank 2 warriors in the group. Su-hong calculates quickly that he has already eliminated 2 strong lieutenants, concluding that clearing out the rest will yield plenty of points for him to evolve. Suddenly, the woman screams furiously and undergoes a bizarre mutation, growing wings, warning that the boy underestimated her and will pay dearly. Gliding full of arrogance, the cultist brags that her strength has now doubled and is more than enough to crush him. Bathed in intense lightning, the hero decrees that the cult has committed too many sins and he won't let any of them walk away today. With a terrifying explosion of electricity, he takes the woman out in mid-air, demanding she just hand over the points already. The panel soon confirms the receipt of the prize, leaving the fighter quite satisfied with the easy profit. The scene changes, revealing the demonic cult's sacrifice base made up of ancient pyramids hidden in the valley. Surrounded by terrorists, the hostage students realize they were tricked and that the enemy henchmen aren't really that strong. But the hope doesn't last long when the giant blood commander points his finger and orders the total elimination of the young people. The henchmen advance eager for a fight, yelling that they hate human geniuses and will take them all down as a sacrifice. Standing back to back, the 3 prodigies prepare for the final fight, promising to take the enemies down with them. Far away on the top of the mountain, Grandmaster Kyun watches everything and praises the impressive courage of Hangzhou's elite. Master Wang agrees, finding their stance admirable, but suggests waiting for the situation to get a little tighter before intervening to save them. Exuding pure confidence, veteran Kyun calmly says it won't be necessary for any of them to get their hands dirty today. Pointing to the sky, he reveals that his little monster is already dropping straight onto the battlefield to save the whole class. Annoyed by the arrogance, Wang asks what his colleague has been drinking to think a beginner student can face rank 3 fighters. Back in the arena, one of the prodigies blocks a heavy attack and yells for his friends to fall back, swearing that if they go down together. The giant commander fires a brutal reddish shockwave, decreeing that no one will escape from there. In the blink of an eye, the protagonist appears like a dark blur in the middle of the smoke, intercepting the entire area. The villain's cowardly charge misses the target and sinks into the stone floor, creating only destruction and empty space. Soon after, one of the cult's henchmen is forcefully thrown and pinned to a tree by the hero's spear. The terrorists stop their charge, totally in shock, looking desperately for whoever was responsible for that. Bathed in golden lightning, Su-hong charges like a flash into the middle of the pack and sinks his fist into a cultist's face. Without losing the momentum of his absurd speed, the boy crushes another enemy with a terrifying electric knee strike. Spinning his own body in a relentless dance, the protagonist gathers more electrical power in his hands. A ruthless rain of lightning palms is fired at the group, crushing the enemy defenses all at once. With the henchmen fallen all around, the hero lands with style and calmly asks if the hostages are all right. The students recognize him on the spot, totally stunned that he wiped out rank 3 warriors in a snap of his fingers. Watching from high up, Wang panics seeing that the boy used healing magic to attack and has already broken through to rank 2. Showing off his pride, Master Kyun agrees, finding the growth speed of the student who arrived at camp as a beginner to be ridiculous. At the base, Su-hong takes the front line and tells the whole class of geniuses to flee first while he handles the heavy lifting. One of the guys thanks him, but warns him to be very careful with the dozen advanced warriors scattered around the place. The boy's eyes shine with pure greed as he calculates the absurd profit of that, staring at the villains if they were a real gold mine. Furious at the takedown of his gang, the Blood Commander charges like a tractor, cursing the hero and promising to crush him. The giant jumps, throwing a colossal reddish punch aiming to turn the rookie into dust right there. However, Su-hong takes a simple step back, dodging the massive impact that only shatters the ground for nothing. Calling out for the next in line, the fighter ignores the boss and sinks his electric hand into the chest of another cultist who is passing by. The rest of the terrorists step back, trembling in absolute dread, begging the boy not to get any closer to them under any circumstances. One of the mercenaries flees desperately, climbing the stairs of the pyramid and screaming for the boss to save them from that terrifying powerhouse. Pulling in the air strongly, the giant commander begins to absorb all the heavy energy around him. The villain raises his arms among the fallen bodies, guaranteeing that their sacrifice will not be forgotten and that this is all for the greater good. At that, Su-hong notices something strange and sees the essence of the defeated beasts floating in the air. The dark fluid flies straight towards the ancient pyramid, leaving the boy totally confused by the bizarre phenomenon. Bathed in a dark red aura, the cult commander enters a trance while the hero deduces that this is the so-called sacrifice. Suddenly, a pair of golden wings bursts from the enemy's body, who insults the human race with pure contempt. Showing off his arrogant angelic form, the celestial being demands to know why no one kneeled before his noble presence. Without waiting for an answer, the winged monster descends from the sky like a golden meteor, tearing through the air straight towards the battlefield. Far from feeling fear, the protagonist gets excited imagining how many absurd points he will score by taking down a real celestial. Glaring at the boy from up high, the villain calls the hero an ant and asks who gave him permission to look up. Taken over by divine fury, the winged monster fires a fast attack, declaring that the rookie will pay for his insolence with his own defeat. The protagonist's eyes widen in surprise, mentally admitting that the speed of that charge is very terrifying. But using his insane reflexes, he raises the shaft of the spear and blocks the heavy hit, generating a shockwave across the courtyard. The impact of the collision is so intense that it shatters the rocks around them under the crushing pressure of the two forces clashing. Finding the block interesting, the Celestial is impressed that such a talent exists among the youth of humanity. Sliding backward after the impact, the boy checks his own hand and admits that the physical strength of this race is absurdly heavy. Floating with a superior pose, the villain confesses he intended to just sweep away the human trash, but decides to eliminate the hero right away to avoid future problems. Suddenly, the angel's face begins to crack, and he curses the weak human body that is already crumbling before reaching level 4. Ignoring the damage, the Celestial boils with golden energy, guaranteeing that the peak of level 3 is more than enough to crush the boy. Putting the pieces together quickly, the protagonist understands that the enemy is not a real divine being, but just a possessed human breaking under pressure. Totally confident, the boy warns that the outcome of the fight is wide open and invokes the Thunder Punch with an aggressive storm of lightning. The two collide in a mind-blowing sequence of electric strikes and brutal hits that sweep the entire arena in the blink of an eye. Watching from afar, Master Wong praises the angel's defense, but Qin replies that the absurd thing there is his own student's bizarre power level. The veteran is amazed to see the rookie pressuring a mythical creature in just hand-to-hand combat, even being a whole level below his opponent. Down below, the winged villain takes a solid punch in the middle of the fast exchange and can't hide his dread in the face of that immense strength. Taking advantage of the perfect opening, the protagonist finally sinks his fist in, throwing the divine body forcefully to the other side of the ruin. Skidding across the stones, the monster demands to know what the boy's physique is, indignant at being forced back down to a mere human and brute strength. Exuding mockery, the hero asks if the enemy is already tired and calls him to direct combat, wanting to test his own limits more. Bathed in the red aura of the Overlord's body, he celebrates that he finally doesn't need to hold back for fear of taking someone out by accident. Facing the broken angel, the fighter laments that the enemy vessel is so fragile, wishing to fight against the real body to have a worthy challenge. Consumed by pure humiliation, the angel completely loses his posture and yells indignantly for being treated like trash by an ordinary human. He raises his hand to the heavens and conjures a giant magic circle, announcing he will use the legendary power of the divine treasure. Several golden portals open in the air, firing fast sacred spears with a totally crushing intent. Sliding swiftly through the attacks, the boy hears the villain state that he was the only one capable of forcing him to use this ultimate trick. In the middle of dodging, the panel beeps warning that the enemy technique cannot be copied, leaving the hero amazed by this unprecedented restriction. On the mountain, the masters panic as they recognize the race's innate ability, deducing that the enemy has a very noble bloodline. Master Wong begs to intervene before the genius falls, but old Qin keeps his calm, telling him to wait for his student's ultimate attack. Annoyed by the stubbornness, the local leader is shocked to hear the report that the rookie has perfect affinity and has mastered the insane fusion since stage 1. Increasing the glow of the divine weapons, the winged monster confesses that if the boy keeps evolving, he will become a total nightmare in the future. Showing no mercy, he launches the relentless Golden Storm, declaring the human prodigy's definitive defeat. Facing the rain of destruction falling from the sky, the protagonist plants his feet firmly on the stone floor, preparing his own lethal counter-offensive. With eyes sparking with electricity, he coldly states that the angel was also the first to force him to fight completely seriously. The young fighter channels his absolute limit into the weapon and announces he will use the third and most dangerous form of his special combat style. Leaning his weight on his base, he fires the spear in a monstrous beam that explodes, tearing through the clouds to intercept the divine judgment. The two colossal forces clash head-on, creating an apocalyptic explosion that lights up the entire valley with golden lights and brute lightning. The celestial being is completely astonished and paralyzed as his ultimate technique is crushed by the rookie's colossal charge. With his face melting from the absurd pressure, the villain yells indignantly, refusing to accept that his divine power failed like that. A pillar of pure energy sweeps the angel away relentlessly, generating a violent boom that clears the entire arena in a wave of blinding destruction. When the flash finally fades, only scorched pieces and ashes remain scattered from the defeated villain's body in the middle of the ruin. In the center of the gigantic crater of destroyed stones, the hero stands firm, holding his spear as the great and only winner of the battle. Watching the system beep with a huge bonus of points, the boy is very satisfied, admitting that hunting that fake angel was very profitable. Suddenly, old Kyun comes running up all relieved, calling the boy his dear and precious treasure of humanity without any shame. Master Wong almost freaks out with excitement over the bizarre victory, while the young man doesn't understand the excessive emotion for just crushing a fake angel. On the contrary, the rookie reflects very seriously that he was pushed to the limit by a common member, and that the geniuses of that race must be terrifying. Noticing Master Shock, the kid agrees, thinking that beating a low-tier celestial really isn't cause for celebration, leaving the old men stunned. After the crisis, time moves forward 4 days, covering the traditional military pavilion where the special camp comes to an end. Staring at the scoreboard dominated by Su Hong by a landslide, a jealous student complains that a mere beginner would never do that without purely cheating. Hearing the gossip, the brute defends the hero loudly, guaranteeing that the boy crushes even experienced warriors in a single absurd strike. Not seeing the protagonist in the courtyard, the class asks where he is, and they soon find out that the local leader is teaching him magic personally. Outside the room, the local master grumbles in terror at the learning speed, while old Kin laughs, warning that he'll soon get used to it. Inside the private dojo, the protagonist meditates silently in the center of the room, focusing his spirit on the new healing technique. A green glow covers his skin, closing old wounds, and he praises the absolute power of being able to erase even old scars. Checking the interface, the fighter plans to invest the points to reach level 2 mental strength and pump up his vital energy all at once. Far away in vast space, angelic clouds cover the majestic and colossal architecture of the divine temple on the celestial race's main planet. Kneeling in the Golden Hall, a servant is interrogated about the unacceptable shame of losing to a lower-level human kid. Trembling slightly, the angel confirms the story and tries to justify the pathetic failure by stating that this specific boy is a complete anomaly. The divine leader summons the elite warrior, who soon appears stepping out of the shadows of the hall with a cold posture to answer his lord's call. Relentless, the commander determines that the human boy will be a huge problem, issuing an immediate order to erase the threat fast. Bowing his head slightly in a gesture of pure deadly respect, the elite attacker accepts the mission, swearing he will solve this problem flawlessly. The boss also demands updates on the pieces of a legendary artifact, order him to hunt for the relic in enemy territory without raising suspicion. Back at Star City's camp, the fierce roar of a giant, violent bear breaks the absolute silence of the isolated simulation chamber. The brute relentlessly attacks the giant beast with his flaming punch, crushing the wild creature's carcass very aggressively. In the courtyard, the students note that the elite trio has gone completely crazy in intense training after taking the humiliating beating from the rookie. Blowing through their valuable points on rare items, the group locks themselves in the combat rooms and manages the terrifying feat of breaking through their level quickly. Even the rich kid gains a lot of muscle mass, yelling like a wild beast, focused only on evolving to pay back the defeat he suffered. Very confident, the elite trio anxiously awaits the hero's return for a rematch. At that, Grandmaster Chun finally returns to the camp, walking alone through the area. The instructor immediately asks for the boy, and the veteran explains that he wanted to train a little more in the forest. Worried, the man reminds him that the camp ends in a few days, but Kyun guarantees the kid isn't an idiot. 2 days pass and a gigantic snake rests on top of a rocky cliff. Su Hong continues meditating intensely to farm dozens of mental points non-stop. The wild beast notices the boy's presence and makes a violent strike, wanting to take him out by surprise. Maintaining absolute calm, the protagonist just raises his hand, releasing a strong glowing energy. The monster is completely paralyzed in the air under the effect of the invisible containment magic. Very relaxed, the fighter invokes his spiritual weapon condensation technique to test the new feature. A giant sword of pure golden light materializes in the air, controlled only by his mind. The spiritual blade spins, cutting the wind with an absurd and terrifying speed. Without the slightest effort, the weapon sinks into the creature, slicing the snake's tough body immediately. The boy finds the destructive power of the level 2 mental class truly scary. Bathed in different energies, he notices that the mental advancement now allows him to fuse 3 attributes at once. Combining flames, thunder, and metal, the energies collide and become extremely volatile in his hands. The repulsive force spirals totally out of control, generating a dangerous flash right in the hero's face. A devastating explosion shatters the scenery, throwing gigantic rocks everywhere. Emerging from the smoke, the rookie coughs covered in dust and concludes that even a failure hurts a level 4 warrior. After the commotion, he picks up his weapon and walks calmly back to the military base. As soon as the hero steps into the camp, the crowd yells to warn the brood about his return. Grandmaster Kyun crosses his arms, asking if the trio really is that certain of victory this time. Exuding arrogance, the team of prodigies guarantees they will crush the boy with absolute certainty. Arriving at the training arena, the rookie faces the big guy, asking if the challenge is for real. The brute flexes his muscles, announcing that all 3 of them reached level 2 and he can win on his own now. Acting very casual, the protagonist stammers and tries to explain his current situation. Releasing a monstrous reddish aura, the boy reveals that he also reached level 2 on the trip. The trio goes into shock, but the girl stands her ground, stating that she is also an advanced spiritual reader. Suhong doesn't even waste time chatting and quickly invokes the art of weapon condensation right in the sky. A colossal sword of light descends with full force, making the entire courtyard tremble. Caught by surprise, the young spiritual reader is thrown backward by the windstorm of the strike. The protagonist paralyzes the giant blade inches before it crushes the trio and apologizes for the scare. Bathed in mental power, he casually confesses that he also became a level 2 spiritual reader. The team breaks a cold sweat, terrified when adding up all the skills the boy stole at such a high strength level. Looking at the stands, the hero suggests the rest of the class jump into the fight to yield more points. Wielding his spear defiantly, he calls the entire camp out for direct combat. The preppy kid gives up on the spot, while the rest of the crowd begs desperately for him not to get close. Watching from afar, the instructor complains that the Grand Master hid the boy's spiritual magic from them. Old Kyun is left completely speechless since he also had no idea about this hidden talent. Soon the veteran bursts into a loud laugh, celebrating that humanity found a once-in-a-millennium monster. With the students taking a heavy beating, the instructor asks if they should intervene, but Kyun thinks it's great to let the youth burn off energy. Suddenly, the old leader looks up, feeling a heavy aura tearing through the sky over the military base. The colossal golden eagle flies over the area, screeching that the 30 days are up and telling the humans to get out. Surrounded by knockout students, the protagonist recognizes the giant monster from the windstorm on the first day. Floating to the heavens, Kyun releases an intimidating purple aura, warning that his patience with the animal has run out. The veteran faces the creature as an equal, announcing that they will leave when they want and don't take orders. Furious at the disrespect, the golden bird screeches that it is not afraid of the Grand Master in the slightest. The beast fires an overwhelming, destructive beam that swallows the air towards the old man. Watching the exchange of blows, Suhong swallows hard, feeling the absurd heat of that true battle of gods. The eagle tells the old man to stop, claiming to have powerful backup, but Kyun promises to crush the backup too. Suddenly, a thunderous voice orders them to stop fighting, leaving the military leader breaking a cold sweat in the sky. A massive, sinister shadow appears in the clouds, making the giant bird look like a helpless insect. A terrifying red eye tears through the darkness, observing the humans with deadly pressure. The instructors go into total panic as they recognize the Lord of Monsters, astounded by the bird's contacts. The hero clenches his fists tensely, remembering that the minimum level for these beasts goes beyond the absurd rank 9.